Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome back to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Card. If you are like us and are sick to death of listening to that or watching that video clip and that bit of music, I'm not surprised you've had to endure it 42 times this year, Mr. Aaron. What do you reckon? Is it enough to make your brains leak out your ears?
It probably is, but I think it was 44 times last year. So if people are still here, it's their own damn fault.
Exactly right. And guess what, fans? For the first time in like 2 months, there's no Andor to go and watch. So don't worry about going anywhere else. Come and join us. Now, it's a beautiful warm day outside. Summer starts tomorrow. Whatever. The idea is you've got to join us because it's a very, very special show tonight. I don't know why I'm saying that because they're just the same as always, but it's all part of the fun and the enjoyment. So there's no Andor, right? There's no other bloody shows on that you need to watch. Come and join us. Isn't that right, Mr. Aaron?
Pretty much, although I guess a lot of the stuff is streaming, so you can watch whatever you want. So if you want to go watch repeats of MASH rather than us, feel free. But otherwise, I think this is a good option.
Indeed. Now, here we go. Colin's written a message on behalf of Christy. How's that one? You cannot join this evening. Oh, there you go. She's bailed on already. So there's no Andor. There's none of us. She doesn't care either way. But I'd like to point out the show is the meaning of life, the universe, and everything. So how about that? So that's so we are the answer to the ultimate question, Mr. Aaron. How about that, mate?
That's a bit of a brain. Exploding thing to think about, isn't it? I guess that's really nice, and it's a great compliment.
Very good. I like that. We should have a competition for a new one. A new one, what? A new intro? What, you don't like the old intro, Mr. Rusky Babes? That's hurting me, dude. I might be sick of seeing it. Doesn't mean I want to change it.
I think you mean a competition for a new co-host. And the deciding answer would be, do you know the editor of Doctor Who Bulletin? Is it Gary Russell? Gary Levy? Gary Levy, I win. Sorry, Russ.
I thought you were going to ask me that question. I'm going to go, no freaking idea. It looks like, okay, so I'm going to time for you to bow out, and it's now time for Aaron Show.
There you go. So I guess it's going to be a very Doctor Who heavy show tonight then.
He's back again. Dude, seriously, you got to stop the swear words on the show, right? Unbelievable. Yes, well, exactly right. Because out of the two, I just push buttons and just Google on. Aaron is the legend of this show. So, very, very good. What's this? Rip It Off the Card is painless. I think from MASH, I just realized brings on many collectibles. You can fake it or leave it as you please. But Rusky Babes, what are you doing, mate? You're sitting there like thinking about this stuff. Don't do that. There we go. Here we go. Dog, oh, Jesus.
The thing about Rip It Off the Card is we've gone 2 years without ripping very much off the card, but tonight there is going to be some of that to a certain point of view.
Exactly right. Now, a few people have said about there's no Facebook notification again. I honestly don't know how it works, right? So the whole thing with the show appearing on Facebook and the Sci-Fi Zone thing, StreamYard changed the system, I don't know, about 2 months ago. And so it actually appears as an event. And I think you have to click on something to say, yes, you're interested in the event. If you just wait for it, it just doesn't come up. Don't ask me how it works. Obviously, we're here, so I never get a chance to see it. But they did change it because prior to that, it used to just pop up. And it would just do its thing. But then they, as I said, they mucked around with it and did something. So apparently it's better this way, but don't ask me what that is.
Do you know what? How awesome is William? There wasn't an alert and he still made it.
Indeed. So there you go. It was the third week in a row. So there you go. Oh, here's a line. Evening, guys, from a sicko dicko. Unwell for the last few days. There's a lot of jokes I can make there, and I'm just going to be really, really good and let them go right through to the keeper. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
I think so. Even though he's a sicko dicko, he's been wandering around Blackburn spreading the plague the last 2 days.
Very well. It's always important to spread you. Jesus, stop it there. We've got an interesting show tonight because obviously our main feature is something completely different and completely left field. And hopefully some people will find it interesting. Maybe Christy will find that not being here tonight is actually a good thing because we're just going to be talking some stuffs. But before we do that, normally it's the news section, and of course we're bypassing the news section tonight because you've got a whole thing about the estate update, Mr. Aaron. Doesn't have an intro title like all the other segments, but go for it.
So just for probably the rest of the year, there's been a lot of interest in the deceased estate that I've been going to, and I think everyone who's watching live knows all about this, so we're just going to go straight into it and look at some of the things that have turned up this week.
I'm going to tell two things I'm going to cut you off, right? First things first, good to see the Vial has finally joined us after like a couple of months' absence. Now the gag about the estate update, right, is that like as people will know, well, like Aaron's done the podcast on 42 to Doomsday, and he's written an article about it and put it on Facebook and talks about it in the store and whatever else. On Friday, for those who may not have been aware, he had a midnight. The store was open till midnight, right? The big Black Friday sale and whatever else. Joe Penn pops in, right, and he said, "Nah, haven't seen this. Nah, haven't read that." And Aaron again had to go through the entire effing story. And I was in the store at the time and I go, oh my God, I am so sick to death. I'm going to be part of the deceased estates thing because I'm so sick to death of hearing it. I said, dude, just read this. Just listen to that. You'll get all the answers. And he said, no, I want the executive live version. And Aaron went through it all over again. Oh, dude.
I don't mind. But if it's all in one place and a few people are watching it at once, it makes it easier on Dags not having to go through the whole story again. You've got to admit, I do it with enthusiasm every single time.
Oh, there's no denying that. But it's just so funny how it's just like, I'm waiting for you to go, oh, Jesus, do I have to? In fact, if anything, next time around, I'll just tee up a whole bunch of dudes, like 50 of them, to come in at 20-minute intervals, walking out, dude, tell me what's going on with the disease. Put you to the test, mate. It'll be your own version of the Jedi trials.
No.
Can you repeat the same story 50 times in a single day?
No. You work for me. Next time, I'm just going to say, Dags has heard it enough. He's going to tell you.
Yeah, and I'll just say, a dude died, left a whole lot of shit. It was really cool. It's in the store. Buy it. Anyway, seriously, let's get back into it. So what are you up to this time?
Okay, so there's been I was out there again cleaning and helping, and we actually have started throwing out rubbish. So it's got to the point where we've got enough room to start throwing stuff out, but there's still amazing stuff turning up. We have a celebrity guest there on the left. That's Bob the painter that joins us sometimes. He was out helping me, and he found some actually amazing stuff this week. There were boxes of unopened trading cards. So you can see there's a G.I. Joe one and a Terminator one, and they're both from, the early 90s. One that's really interesting, the guy has a lot of audio-visual equipment, but he kept all the flyers and promo for this equipment. And it looks like in about 1979 or 1978, he went to a computer show and basically picked up every single piece of advertising that he could. And most of it's, for antiquated systems that are way out of date now. But what I did find was the national folder that advertised the ABBA promotion for National Electronics. Now, I don't know if anyone remembers there's so much more at National, where ABBA actually rewrote Fernando for an advertising jingle and sung it themselves, and it was on Australian television. So it's a bit of a find for ABBA fans there, and that's the actual fold-out promo before the actual marketing campaign started. And I've looked online and I can't find another copy of that. So that's a really unique piece that turned up in this estate. Do you remember there's so much more at National, Dags?
I think so. Yeah, it's very vague. I mean, sometimes you get these things mixed up. I remember like Nashua, #1, and plain paper copies, because Awesome Mills did that. I do like the fact this is 1979 product digest, right? And you do wonder when you look at a lot of these things from so far back, what they were promoting and what was in at the time and what is just long gone, long been superseded. And people will say, and like some people are saying here, I had one of those and I had one of those and whatever. And then you could say, well, whatever happened to those things? Like, who knows? But yeah, you wouldn't expect a catalogue from 1979 to be floating around, that's for sure. So,
yeah. Well, there was a whole box of them. Some of it was interesting. It was describing the internet before the term internet existed, which I find really interesting to read, where they knew what was going to happen, but it hadn't been set up yet.
Yeah, so the history of the internet was all to do with American universities. Prior to that, I think it was actually part of the American military through DARPA, I think they called it, and then was ARPA, if I'm not mistaken. So universities had their own networks going on, but it didn't become a public thing until the 1990s. But yes, networks did exist at that time, if you're interested in that sort of history. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Now that was interesting. So when Aaron sent me this picture yesterday, I thought, oh, this is something. Now Rusky Babes has seen this because he is a big aficionado of old fan stores and whatever. Everybody will remember it, but nobody will have a copy of this anywhere. And of course, it's the old Stone Age books bags, mate. How good's that?
I know, and I think I've said before, the guy, he collected a lot of Doctor Who and a lot of comics in general and Star Trek and things, and whatever he collected, he left in the bag and brought it home. And I found an absolute pile of alternate worlds and Minotaur books bags, but this is one of the oldest, and it's a space age books. And believe it or not, those Black Hole comics and the Blade Runner and the Star Trek had gone into that bag in about 1981, 82, and they had never came out again till I found them last week. So that was a bit of a spin out finding that, because I love keeping bags like that. So that's one of the few things that's come back into my own collection, because what's the chance of ever finding another one of those?
I love the fact with we called it Stone Age because that's just how we were. The phone number doesn't even have the 9. And everybody forgets about the day when the 9 was introduced, which was in the mid 90s or the sort of the early to mid 90s. But yeah, you just look at that and you go, oh, was there a time when there was only like 7 digits in there? That's 7 digits, isn't it? In a phone number, it's like now we've got 8. So it's like, how freaking trippy is that?
I know, it's crazy. Some of the early alternate worlds and Minotaur bags I've got have only got the 7 digits as well. So they're going back to the Stone Age then. But I do remember that was kind of the mural that was around the window of Space Age books as well, wasn't it?
Yes. So, I mean, the shop was long gone. For a period of time, Slow Glass Books was upstairs. Of course, the MSFC, the Melbourne Science Fiction Club, used to meet upstairs in the Stone Age books before Slow Glass moved in. We were talking a long time ago. Colin's gone dibs on the Star Trek bag. It's not a bag. It's actually the magazine, dude. The collector's edition. You would have seen it before from 1984. So, yes, very, very cool. And so everybody would have had the bags when they went to Stone Age, because bearing in mind, as we said, Space Age Books was a popular store, but Minotaur, which was just walking distance down the road, I think eventually by the time we got to the mid-80s, that was the place for modern media pop culture fans to hang out. Russell says he has a Space Age bag. You have to burn yours, so he'll so his will retain its value. But yeah, it's just one of those things. There would have been millions of these things printed, and of course, Merv Binns passed away a couple of years ago. So I
was actually looking at the art to that, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool to take the Space Age books out of the middle and rip it off the card and turn it into a T-shirt?
Indeedy doody diddy, and someone's using your internet in your house because you're breaking up. At least your voice is coming through, but you're doing a bit of the old what do you call it?
Max Headroom.
Max Headroom. Yeah. with your facial features. So yes, very, very good. Tell Kale to stop using all the download speed. Very good. Yes, you are right. That's what it was called Stone Age, because it hadn't changed since the 70s. And then I think it was kind of lost in time, because clearly Stone Age, I know we shouldn't call it that, but we can't help it, was primarily a literature store. And, books in the 70s and that were the rage. But once media really kicked in, and especially in the late 70s and the early 80s, you had to adapt or you're going to struggle. And of course, Space Age kind of didn't adapt, and it did struggle. And I remember as a young dude walking in there and I'm thinking, where's all the pop cultures? Where's all the movie and TV stuff? And there wasn't much at all. It was a disappointment. Once you found Minotaur down the road, that was it. Stone Age was just that.
The other thing, but Space Age books finished up before it even had videotapes. That's how old that one is.
Yeah. Actually, you're not far from. That's pretty much right on the money too, because it would have been the mid '80s it happened. Because I remember they had the big shutdown sale, and friends of mine were going in there and they're finding stuff left, right, and centre. And that was the end of that, unfortunately. So it was a long time ago. So very, very cool. Now I think the building, you wouldn't even recognise it now. It's had shops come and go 1,000 times. But we move on. All right. So next up is this.
So this is a bit of a blast from the past for everyone as well. So I found these folios, and inside the folios there were, as you can see, old Toys R Us bags from the mid-80s. Now, Dags, I don't know if you were still collecting toys or going to Toys R Us then, but this is a bit of a blast from the past too. The old purple and yellow bags. Do you remember those?
The old toy world, they were sort of like in massive competition with Toys R Us and all the other toy shops that were floating around. And it's a shame he didn't have a Caesar's Palace bag. It would have been Children's Palace bag. Caesar's Palace.
Yeah,
that's
I haven't.
What do you call the bloody thing in Las Vegas? Children's Palace bag. I'll get it right eventually. That would have been cool. I would have gone completely trippy over that. Just quickly regarding Stone Age, yeah, right. It's ironic it called Stone Age because it was a shop about the future, but it lived in the past. Yeah, exactly right. Very good. Yes.
Yeah. So I opened these, and it was something, again, I haven't found much in this that I want to keep myself, but I will be keeping these because it was a series of Lego bags and instructions. And this was when I was growing up, one of my favorite Lego books ever, and you do find them, but they're never mint condition. And what I loved about this, it had instructions for the pieces and sets that you already had. It was an ideas book, so you could do different things. And I loved this because it showed you how to make a spaceship, that one on the bottom there. And what does that look like to you, Dags? Because I was sure Lego were teaching me how to make a ship from popular culture.
Yeah, it looks like a Cylon Raider.
Absolutely. It wasn't exactly, but it was so close to a Cylon Raider. This was one of the first sort of ships from TV I ever built out of Lego, because the markings were the same, the shape was the same, where the figures sat was exactly the same as well. So this is a very cool piece, and it's just something that sort of is a piece of nostalgia for me. But there wasn't just this book, there was an absolute ton of other things. So there was all these Lego instructions, and the sad thing, and this has happened a few times in this estate, the guy kept all the instructions mint in folders, and the folders were saved, and the Lego itself was in plastic garbage bags, and it all got destroyed. So I've got all these mint condition Lego instructions, but I haven't got the Lego that goes with it, which is usually the other way around, where you find all the Lego, but the paperwork has long since disintegrated. And this is all original mint condition right back to 1972. So it's really amazing.
So you go into a toy shop or whatever, and say, look, I've got the instructions to build it, but I'm missing a few bricks. And they go, how many are you missing? All of them.
All of them.
Exactly right. So
there's actually the Lego Ideas Centre at Chadstone, and they've got a wall of Lego where you get a cup and you can walk around and you can fill the cup for however many dollars.
Yeah.
You could take the instructions in and like fill them one piece at a time and try and rebuild those sets. But it's a project for the future, but I'll probably keep them just as they are for now, because it's so nice just to find that kind of stuff.
Very good. Can I get you to move to a bit to your right, please? You're a bit off center from my. Thank you. Lovely. So, of course, you're talking about videos. Have we got a bloody video? Of course, you got no use having a video if you got nothing to play it on, and you got some hardware, mate. How good's this?
Well, this is crazy because I think, again, I've said in the past, we found 30 to 40 video machines that we took up to Canberra because they were interested in everything, so they could play all the tapes and different media. And I was pretty sure that we'd got everything. But guess what? Underneath all these piles of rubbish and in bags and things, I found another U-matic player, which is not a small machine. That's like a microwave oven size video player. And then on top of it, you've got an old audio player. But I love these because they've got, you know, the heavy buttons that when you push them, they click down. And it is like playing, well, Dags just did the motion, it is like playing a keyboard to operate this stuff. And it gives you a lot more satisfaction than pushing the tiny little touch remotes on a phone screen or something like that. But I just highlighted this because it is crazy that after 4 weeks of getting rid of material, I'm still uncovering stuff this size that is hidden under mountains of junk in this collection.
The funny thing about these machines is that when you back in the day, when you sort of walked around and you had one of these, you go, oh, mate, how cool am I? I got a big ass machine with big ass buttons, right? And of course, what came with that really coolness was the weight. None of these things were ever made out of like aluminium, right? We would just float up to the roof by itself. Oh, no. The heavier, the better. They put them in these big ass boxes made of wood. And you go, mate, there's at least a 20, 30 kilo piece of shit there. And you go, oh my God, that weighs a ton. But it looks cool because so few people had them back in the day. Weight equals coolness. Never forget that, kids.
You know what? You need to be so rich, you need a team of Egyptian slaves to even move them because it's like a big slab of granite that you have to take from room to room. That's why no one's got them.
Yeah, absolute classic. And you got a bit of an update, and that's where we're at with that. You got a bit of an update regarding your 42 to Doomsday, mate.
Yep. So just going to say, anyone that, as Dag said, anyone that wants to listen to it without coming into the shop and asking me, that's a pretty thorough podcast to listen to. Now, before we move on to our next section, I did mention this to Dags. I don't know if he remembers. I did find something in this collection that has caused me a bit of a dilemma. And that is these.
All right, hang on.
So do you remember what I was saying about these, Dags?
No. Bread cards or something?
So these were available, I think, in Kellogg's, just Kellogg's breakfast cereal back in the 80s. It would have been the mid-80s when Temple of Doom came out. Now, I have been trying to collect a set of these for 20 to 30 years. I got about 3 of them when they came out, but I never ate enough cereal to ever get a whole set. Now, in this collection, I have found 2 minty unopened ones, and they go for a little bit of money because you never find these breakfast cereal things unopened. But do you know what we're going to do? Because I want to get the set of these.
You're a bad, bad dude. What are you going to do, mate?
I'm going to open them.
Oh, you can't do that. It belongs in a museum, dude. Don't offend the series like that. Oh my god. Oh no, don't do it. No, 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 no. Guy, you're late. What did you miss? You missed the defilement of a collectible. Oh, absolutely no. Oh, the damage is done. Smell that 1980s air just dissipating into the universe. Oh, dude.
Now, the thing about these is you get 2 cards. I think one of them is a picture card, and one of them is a comic book card. And I'm really hoping I get 2 that I need out of this, because if I've opened them and they're ones I've already got, I'd be really disappointed. So,
oh, dude. Oh gosh. Oh wow.
And oh freaking hell! Oh
what?
no!
What? Hang on. What have you done? Hang on, I'm gonna go. I'll give you the solo.
It's one I've already got.
There you go. That will learn you, right? Never defile what should not be defiled.
I don't have that picture card though, but I've got the freaking Indiana Jones card. I can't believe it. Okay, should I go 2 for 2, or should I leave the other one? No. What do you mean no? It's just sitting there.
No, don't go. Oh, you're an asshole. Don't do that. So everybody's watching this. He's actually defiling. Oh, hang on. Go and do it. You're a shocker, dude. You should be. Don't cut the card, whatever you do. Oops, too ouchy. Oh, no. No, don't do it, Greg. What are you doing, mate? Oh, you are unbelievable. That is
disgusting. So, if I get another freaking Indiana Jones and it's the same card, I will be so freaking pissed.
I'll tell you what, I'm feeling dirty just watching this. Tell you what, unbelievable. And you got a what's his name? Ki Hoi Kwan.
It's Short Round and an
Short
2
round.
that I
that was the actor, wasn't it? Yeah, Short Round. Yeah, exactly right.
2 that I don't have. 2 that I don't have. It was all worth it, Dags. It was all worth it.
I don't know. I'm just feeling. I've seen defilement before my very eyes. I mean, this is worse than the vile file. What can I say? Tell you what, unbelievable.
There you go. We did a segment on how to improve the price of your collectibles. We can cut this bit out and call it "How to Devalue Your Collectibles."
Unbelievable.
There you go.
Yeah, thanks. Short round. Sorry, I kind of got it ballsed up. Yes, deviling it. Yes, exactly right. So there you go. Good stuff. I like it. Rusky Babes is still. We've got him in the zone now. He's too busy writing all about Stone Age books. Dude, we've moved on. You're gonna have to start thinking about something else. All right, there you go. So you've wrecked a couple of collectibles. I hope you feel proud of yourself, mate. You're disgraceful. You're a disgrace to the collecting community.
We call it "Rip It Off the Card," and I stand by the name of the show.
Mate, I can't believe that. And not only that, he just got the scissors. He didn't even hesitate. He said, "Snip, snip, snip. Thank you very much for coming." And the first one, of course, as he said, he got doubles off. Unbelievable. Yeah, send the duplicates to Ronnie. Yeah, exactly right. We'll be speaking of Ronnie in a second. But before we do that, we've got something that's very, very exciting, because it's now time to move on to this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
Now, as always, we like to show you a pop, and we want people to tell us, what do you reckon that is? So, aside from the massively big head and the small body, which has clearly got the proportions all asked about, putting it quite simply, without knowing what it is from the box, what do people think that happens to be? What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron?
Well, I saw it and I thought, this is very generic. This could be a lot of different characters. Would you have known who this was?
No, not in a million years. I like to put it straight out. What is it? Ugly. Oh, yeah, there we go. Straight out like that. Kira. I don't know which Kira you're talking. There's a lot of characters called Kira these days. The only Kira I know of is the one. You've got one in Deep Space Nine, and of course in Solo. Guy said Trinity. That's actually a very good guess. Actually, you got to say, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, well done. Rusky Babes said Catwoman. Colin said the chick from Matrix, which is Trinity. Yeah, exactly right. What? Someone anemic with mumps. Okay. Well, there you go. Matrix, Trinity, a Mirror Universe. Oh, yeah, Kira from Mirror Universe. Exactly right. I like up the new one. Black Widow. Very good. So far, only one person's got it right, and that is Moneybag Sullivan with Selena Kyle. Now, you might be thinking, she looks nothing like Selena Kyle's Catwoman. Looks nothing like Michelle Pfeiffer or Julie Newmar. That's because it's the new one. If I'm the
Well,
Batman, excuse the
when
boot.
Russell said Catwoman, I did wonder if he meant this one or if he meant the Halle Berry one, because it does look a little bit like the Halle Berry one as well.
Yes.
But I did choose this one because it is so generic. A lot of these you can pick who they are, because even as a caricature, the pop vinyls do sort of get across who they're meant to be. But this one, truly without the box, I do think could be about 10 different characters.
Ooh, yeah,
So-
that's a whip. Yes.
Do you think this is a good one? Sometimes we've had disagreements. I think this is a crap one.
Yeah, I can't see the point of it myself. I guess they kind of feel obligated to doing it because if they do a Batman one, the Batman one, and they do a Riddler one, I guess by default they've kind of got to do this as well. But I mean, I think even if you're a Catwoman fan, you'd be going, "I kind of do I have to?" It's almost on the bordering on as bad as the Halle Berry version. Whereas it's like a lot of things. If you say, "I think of all these live action Catwomen," right? Which ones spring to mind? And I'd be thinking this one would be right down the bottom of the list, not because of the way the actress performed or anything like that. It's just because all these other ones have come and gone, and it's just another one to add to the list, and it's a long list. And whether it's memorable, probably not.
So in the words of Devo, Williams said, "Crack that whip, give this pop the slip." I think.
Well, yeah, and that's just the way it goes. Because she was also in Dark Knight Rises too, wasn't she? So there's bloody freaking Catwoman all over the place. So
There is. That was
Anyway.
the Zoe Kravitz version. I don't know if we'll see her in another Batman movie. I think it was successful enough that they might go for it, but who knows? So that was
Yeah,
my
exactly.
useless pop of the week anyway.
Rusky Babe said he meant the new one, so he was on the right ball as well. So very, very good. But yeah, I do agree with some of the comments saying it. Like Trinity was actually a very good guess for Matrix. Ironically, if they did do a Trinity from Matrix, you probably look at that and go, "Oh, it looks exactly like Catwoman."
Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. All right, very, very good. The Vial didn't like the new Riddler, and if the Vial's not prepared to violate a Riddler, what does that tell you about the world? All right, now with that in mind, it is time to move on to something very exciting. Now, of course, we're getting into December next month, tomorrow. So now time for a little bit of this. As always, there's a bit of correspondence between Mr. Aaron and Mr. Ronnie, which is particularly cool. And you guys have been up to some very interesting conversations this week regarding the upcoming Christmas. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
No, guess what, Dags? I have had zero correspondence with Ronnie. He's actually not replied to me at all. So I actually had to bring out the big guns.
Exactly right. And when people need big guns, and we're not talking about Aaron and his bulging boys. It's making me laugh just thinking about it. Oh, God. He's two of my best friends. Oh, well, why am I laughing at that?
Here's two of my best friends.
I just had a moment. Sorry, kids. Yes, you had to bring out the big guns. And of course, when you're talking about this segment, the big guns clearly is the Soul Greg King himself. Isn't that right?
Yes. So I hope Greg King himself doesn't mind, but I stole his identity and emailed Ronnie.
All right. So what did the Soul Greg King have to say to our illustrious Ronnie? Let's find out. Go for it.
So I said, "Dear Ronnie, I'm Aaron's
the
friend."
Soul Greg King said this, not you.
"Dear Ronnie, I'm Aaron's friend, the internet value crusader, the Soul Greg King. Aaron has finally given me your email address. I have begged him for it for most of the year. Do not worry though, I'm not here to chastise you for your bad business deals and shoddy products. I want you to send me a list of products with a brief review as Christmas ideas. The omnipotent Greg King."
Omnipotent? I thought it was omnipotent.
So, do you think? Do you think
big guns? I reckon it's Aaron with big guns. Exactly right. All right. So the Soul Greg King has decided to reach out, and there he is, there in the flesh, to speak to Mr. Ronnie. What do you reckon Ronnie had to say? Either Ronnie could do one of two things: either he could tell him to rack off, or he could say, "Holy guacamole! It is the coolest dude in the entire universe." As it turned out, it was this bit.
Well, the interesting thing is it came from my email address, so Ronnie's not a very smart person, but after ghosting me for a week and not answering any of my questions, I got an email straight back. "Dear Soul Greg King, I finally get the mail from Aaron's master.
Yeah.
It is a good day. I am honored that you would contact me and know this means I offer genuinely good product. you will get them and say, Ronnie, you did it again. Let me think and send list of awesome, cool top products for celebration of Christmas. Your friend Ronnie.
Very good. So, okay, so Mr. Greg had to actually no, there was a okay, so there's a continuation of this particular message. So, all right, now everybody needs to pay attention to this because you might be able to take advantage of Mr. Ronnie for the first time ever. Go for it.
Yeah. Dear Soul Greg King, I very excited. Here is my top picks for Western Person's Christmas. I give you very special site code that give everyone who use it $3 off till the end of the month. So you've got a day, kids. And it's capital NOV3, and it worked because I ordered some of this stuff. If I can help you in any way, I do my best to please. Your friend Ronnie.
Now, bearing in mind, if you order an item with that code and you get the $3 off, and it'd be funny if you order an item that's only $2 to buy, doesn't mean you're going to get it. Because as we know, there's still shitloads of stuff that are still missing that just never arrived. So, have fantastic at that. But the key thing is, fans, this is what Ronnie reckons is awesome for Western. Okay, so obviously Eastern and Southern and Northern, they have different Christmas tastes. But if you're in the West, like we happen to be, Western society, what do you reckon Ronnie's going to come up with the Ronnie Woo's Christmas hit picks? Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Yes. Now, Ronnie sent us too many items for me to include them all, so I just picked the 5 best ones, and I'm sure the Soul Greg King would agree with me on the ones that he showed us.
Exactly. So yes, you're right, Mr. Greg. $3 off what you never receive. It's a bargain, and how good is that? All right, so fans, now pay attention. If you're looking at getting some Christmas items for whoever, I wouldn't recommend ordering through this company. But hey, if you're willing to give the Nove 3 a bit of a burl, get you $3 off, it could be the way to go. And ironically, the first item is actually less than $3. So make of that. If it's a freebie, how good is that? So let's check it out, Mr. Aaron.
Look, it's the cute version of the Demon Vermin from Gremlin movie, and you can hang it proud like from your tree. It's so cheap too. Buy all versions. And there we've got some Mogwai and Gremlins Christmas hangings. So they're actually quite cool. If you actually got them, they are quite cheap and quite good. They're only $2.76 each, and I've ordered a couple of them because it's cheap, and I had a $3 discount code.
Hang on. So does that mean you're going to get them in the store? They go awesome just in time for Christmas, and of course we know what happens when things turn up in the store just in time for Christmas.
Well, I'm expecting them to turn up just in time for Christmas next year.
Exactly right. And we go, oh, there's an extra. It's like, hang on, I didn't get these for $3. Why is there like 4 numbers to represent the price? All right. Okay. This is particularly groovy. Okay. Now, ladies out there, I think Jacqueline's the only female who's watching. Hopefully she's still stuck around because Christy's not with us tonight. This is something, Jacqueline, I want your opinion specifically on this as the only lady watching the show. Tell me if this is the kind of thing that you want Santa to stuff in your stocking this year.
Want to be the coolest looking woman for Christmas? Look at this facial hair mask of Santa for woman. In society today, it's totally cool. So cheap, you can afford it. Don't get COVID for Christmas. LOL.
Love it. Yeah, sorry, Jacqueline. I don't know what else to say. So, yeah, I'm going with lady because I'm a gentleman, as they say. But tell me, Jacqueline, as you are watching and just saw that, what do you reckon? Is that the kind of thing you'd be sort of prancing around with on Christmas Day? Very fetching.
I mean, you can just.
And regarding the gremlin ornaments, yeah, I agree. Hang on, I've lost it. Yeah, hang them. In fact, what you can do, you can put them on the string and use them as a yo-yo. Oh gosh, I was going to sell a lot of these in Greece.
Oh, Greece is the word.
Oh god, I'm actually having problems seeing the screen because it's all exciting. Very good. What matching what? Merkin. Yes, very much so. Yes, it does belong in the vial file, but we haven't got to the end of it yet. Now, this one. Now, we've had something for the ladies, whether you're a lady or not is irrelevant. This is something for the older male folk of the audience. Get a load of this.
If you thought the gremlin hanging get a reaction, this is even better. New this year, balls. It's like an old man's scrotum if you don't get the joke. Imagine how older relatives will react with shock.
I looked at this and I thought, yeah, they do look familiar. Oh, God damn it. Oh, geez. Oh, dear. Isn't that?
Well, imagine hanging on the tree while you're stuffing your turkey.
Well, the good thing is it's $1.88. So with my $3 discount, I can buy a pair of those, pair one, whatever, give it to Aaron as a Christmas gift, saying best boss of the year, and see.
Well, with your $3 discount, you can get 2 of them and wear them as earrings.
Oh, I love it. Very, very good. It's crazy because it's crazy. Absolutely. And don't forget, this isn't us. This is what what's his name, Ronnie, is recommending that you buy. So
These are
goodness gracious.
these are all absolutely real products, and I've ordered every single one of them.
It's a low-hanging fruit. I can't imagine the capitalist dog going. Well, dogs and balls kind of go together hand in hand. Oh, God damn it! That's just classic. All right,
hang them on your tree for some teabag action.
No worries at all. Okay, I've just got something that's come up here. Hang on. I'm going to get you to talk for a couple of ticks while I do something. Hang on.
No problem. Dude. So these are actually all real products that were sent through. I've got to say, he did send us about 20, and I picked the 5 were kind of the ones I thought would be the most amusing on the show and the cheapest. And I have ordered all of them, and I'm really crossing my fingers that they will turn up before Christmas because I think they're pretty funny.
Very, very good. Oh, Colin, to save time, just look in the mirror. Sorry, son. You look at me go, that's definitely worth more than $1.88. What can I say? All right, now, this is the cool bit, right? Okay, so we're sort of building up. Okay, we've got ladies' material, we've got gentlemen's material. Now, here's something for the whole family, but it's mainly for the females.
Look at this, a sexy Christmas cape for wife, daughter, or secret lady friend. Even younger children in family can look stylish and sexy for walking around and singing annoying Christmas jingles. Not as cheap, but sexy.
Unbelievable. I got the thing. Okay, Christmas cape for the wife or the secret lady friend. But when you start introducing the daughter or children, you go, where are you going? Dude, what are you doing, son?
I just think you can have it as a cape for any occasion. You can wear it like caroling or to a stripper party or something. I don't know.
Dude, it does mean you can have your cape and eat it too. Interpret that any way you like. So there you go. The Santa Flasher, absolutely fantastic. So,
well, I tell you what, if you were the Santa Flasher, you could hang the balls underneath it, knock at someone's door when you're caroling, and flash it.
Hey, girls, get a load. He's one I prepared earlier.
Get a load of my balls.
William, that's great. What you reckon? Absolutely. I can't believe you actually said on your daughter, and he's like, "Oh my God, hey." That's just hey, little 13-year-old daughter, chuck this on. Oh, dude. Bad. Yeah, exactly right. Christmas cape's your local flasher. Oh, that's just not good at all. Ronnie, you're worrying me, son. And lucky last, now this one's probably a bit more safer than everything we've seen so far, but you've got to have one of these.
What says more it's Christmas than a cow wired in lights? Now you can wear this stylish jumper with festive cow. All friends would point and admire and ask where you find amazing Christmas cow. And you can say AliExpress.
The only thing it's missing, it needs a name. You need to have Ronnie written right over the top of the cow.
It's more of a mad cow, isn't it?
Unbelievable. And you know what? As crazy it is, as you've said, good old Mr. Ronnie Woo, you've done it again. I totally have to agree with you on that one. I do think it's interesting that people who've watched this show, and admittedly there's not a great deal at the moment, but those who do watch the replay, when they do come to the store, they will be looking for those items. I reckon you're on a bit of a winner there, son.
Yeah, I'm sure. For every gremlin I sell, I'll sell a ball as well.
There you go. Buy one, get one free. Yeah, exactly right, Greg. He has done it again. Fantastic. Yes, those items. I mean, it's not necessarily the items. It was just the way he explained them. Jesus Christ. Oh, now, after all that, right? And after all that depravity and absolute disgustingness, it's now time for something a bit more depraved and disgusting, and it has to be this. Very good. Now, it's now time for the Lord Vile's Vile of File. And of course, as we know, the Vile gets more letters than we ever get. And this time we've got something from a brand new person. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
We did. I don't remember this person before, so we do occasionally reach out and touch someone new. Dear Lord Vile, I was watching your replay on bad translations on menus, and it reminded me of how sometimes subtitles on movies can be hilariously wrong. Do you have any bad subtitles in your collection from Colin Epsworth?
Well, there you go, because he's seen this.
Yes. Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith. I nearly said what I think of it. The backstroke of the West. Obviously, that's what the true title meant. But that is a genuine Chinese subtitle that was on Revenge of the Sith.
And you'll be happy to know that the violating sub intro, the Vile actually loves it. So there you go. So it's got the Vile a seal of approval, which is particularly cool. All right. Very, very good. Oh, I like it. Yeah, someone new. There are 2 fans now, at least. I know we have to sort of like try and offer money to bring them in, but they still won't come and join us. But it's so you're going to say something?
Celia and Alan didn't send anything this week. They've both dropped a level with their Sith apprenticeships.
You mean Andrea? Who the hell are you
Andrea. Who did I say?
I don't know. Celia. Who the hell's Celia?
Celia? Andrea? Okay, yeah. So Andrea with 2 E's.
Yeah, Andrew's just like she's been violated enough. She's currently in a padded room, just going, "Oh, the Vile! I just want to be violated." All right. Anyway, let's move on because we're running a bit behind. So it's now what are we doing? The Lord Vile substandard subtitles, Mr. Aaron.
Yes, or as the subtitle says, Lord Smiles sub sandwich love vitals.
Lord Smiles. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind checking out the Lord Smiles sub sandwich.
Well, the love vitals are strong with this one.
There's a lot of bad shit you can say about it's worse than a self-sourcing pudding. Oh my god. I'm going to stop right there before I get myself into massive trouble. So there you go.
We're not even at the Christmas episode yet, which is the most offensive of the whole year.
All right. So these are subtitles to movies and TV shows. You're going to love some of these.
This is from the Vile's Lord of the Rings collection, where obviously everyone remembers I am Aragorn, son of Alfred. Probably the butler of the family. Yeah. I love down the bottom, find the weed in the cave of mine, as they're both having a smoke of pipeweed. And of course, Frodo, you are the wing baron, Frodo. I'm pretty sure that was meant to be ring bearer, but he's a wing baron sounds much better, I think.
Totally agree with you. And we are came to the Vile sub sandwich at a 6-inch or a foot long. After watching this episode, is going from one to the other. So yes, indeed. Very, very cool. All right. So next one up, we're still sticking with the Lord of the Rings.
Yep. So you've got the classic scene where Gimli says, "Toast me. Are you warm and hungry?" I say, "You got to toast me. Don't touch me, Frodo," as well. One thing I've heard, never toast a dwarf.
Yeah, that's never a good thing, is it, eh? So very, very cool. So even in fantasy lands, as you can see, when they have to do subtitles, it can never work out too well. But even in animation, even in like anime, they can still screw things up a little bit.
Well, some of these are hilarious. Everyone should. And then the actual subtitle writer has put, "I don't know, WTF she said here." So you've got the person who does Ronnie's translation working for this anime company. Can you do the bottom one for me? You do the spaceships, because you do this better than me.
I'm saying this because I know why you got me to do it. Okay. I'll now proceed to pleasure myself with this fish.
Well, I wanted to be the one that read that. I wanted you to do the other one for the spaceships, which was basically pew, 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 pew.
So he's about to proceed to pleasure himself with a said fish. He's going to drop a line, so to speak, and see what hooks in.
It reminds me of the Monty Python fish slapping dance, really.
He likes, and so long as the fishes are still alive and they're still flopping and moving around. A violated fish. Yes, exactly right. Oh, that's just bad. What is the deal with that? Now, some of these you're probably not going to be able to read because the text is pretty small, but we'll give it a burl anyway. Can you read these at all?
Yeah, these are from the news. There's one here: firefighters to deal with not just the fire, with people in the middle of the road ejaculating.
Yes. So, yes,
One,
firefighters to deal with not just the fire, with people in the middle of the road ejaculating. So they're obviously. I'm just not going to say a word. I'm going to move right on.
If I was in the middle of that fire, I'd try to evacuate, not ejaculate.
Oh, is that what they were trying to say? Oh, okay, because I didn't understand where that was coming from. There we go. I like the Moneybag says, we don't want to know what you do with your fish tags. It's, yeah.
Well, it sounds like he had the fish in the middle of a fire.
Yes, very good. They're evacuating. Thank you. I could not work out what they meant. I'll go for the next one. So that the one below it, they've put subtitles in the tennis, and it just goes tick tack as the ball's going backwards and forward. Oh, I love it. So I want to see someone sitting there typing that out, and
that's crazy. The one under that is, I don't know what Chinese year it is this year, but welcome to the year of the whore. People around the world, the globe, celebrate. Now, I presume that was meant.
Sorry, what was that?
I presume that was meant to be Year of the Horse.
Ah, yes. Welcome to the Year of the Horse. Yes, exactly right. And there would be a lot of celebration going along with that. Regarding the fish thing, yes, it still has the bone in it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? When you eat a fish, you've got to be careful you don't choke on the bone in your throat. So
exactly right. So imagine saying that to people. I was born in the Year of the Whore. So yes,
now,
open up and say,
what actor does everybody have trouble pronouncing their name?
Yep, the one on the left. Go for it.
To see Benedict Cumberbatch. Why not?
Oh, love it. Jeepers,
or as we know him, Khan.
Khan. Yeah, exactly right. Very, very good. All right, we've got a couple more coming our way, which is particularly cool.
So here's a few different ones. There's another news story. Chances of rape today are about 70% and sunshine for us tomorrow. Well, chances are only 70% if your Dags is fish. Then you've got,
exactly right. In other words, it's going to be an effing hot day.
Yes. Well, after Dags had the fish, he ate the smoking nuts.
As one does. And we know we got those from Ronnie's store. Yep, exactly right.
And then I had to slip in a Docky Who one. There's sometimes subtitles put in actions that are happening. Angrily fixes bow tie.
Ah, yes. Very good. So that's obviously for the hearing impaired who can't hear him actually doing it, fixing his bow tie. They need the subtitles. Yeah. Love it. Very, very cool. All right. Let's get into a bit of Star Wars. Everybody loves a little bit of Star Wars.
Ah, yes. Help me, Austrian Wang Kenobi. You're my only hope. The one down the bottom is hilarious because Daddy, please, like totally changes the whole perception of father by changing it to Daddy. Daddy, please, as he gets electrocuted. And of course, The Last Jedi, the final hopeless situation, which a lot of people thought about The Last Jedi as a movie.
They did indeed, but I like that Austria, as in the country, Wang Kenobi. Well, you got to admit, Obi-Wan is a bit of a wacky name, and if you've never seen it written out, you would never really know what the hell it means. So
I'll tell you what, if you buy an Obi-Wan Kenobi from AliExpress, you're probably going to get a figure that is actually Austria Wang Kenobi.
Actually, you just retitled on the back, and he said, because some people watch movies, and that's where they learn things, and they go, "Oh, is that what his character is called?" So someone's going to manufacture that now. And the whole gag will have come from the subtitling. More subtitlings for good old Star Wars. We've got a little bit of this.
The one down the bottom. Your clowns are very impressive. You must be very proud.
Very good. Can't say no to good old clowns.
And who can forget the the touching scene where Anakin enters the young. It says, and the youngling says, "Management trainer Skywalker, they outnumber us greatly. Please submit and share action plan." And then he lights the lightsaber and says, "Action plan initiated." Yes, and who remembers the great scene with the swimming in episode 1? Finally, we will do the backstroke.
Oh, goodness gracious me, though. But I tell you what, when it said in Attack of the Clones and it said, "Your clowns are very impressive. You must be very proud." The very first thing I thought of was, "Well, hello, everybody."
I was actually thinking killer clowns from outer space.
Oh, goodness gracious me. How good is that, eh? Absolutely Oh, golly, golly, golly. Very, very good. And we're still sticking with the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, hold it. I think this is the last one, isn't it?
Yep.
And this is a great one too, where Palpatine warns them, "You two be careful. He is big." And then you've got, "He is in my behind." Good,
I
kind
was
of
asking for it.
good. "You beat the inside." "I have the king of the hill. I feel far from good." So,
Oh, goodness gracious me. I love it. Yes, yes. He's in my pie. Oh, dude. Oh, jeepers creepers.
yes.
Now we know what.
Well, the Vile
sound
has
the way they
returned
do.
with us. The Vile has returned with us live tonight, and he's gone through his video collection and found some amazing stuff for us. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff there, and there's a lot more stuff in the Vile's video collection that I think he could bring us in the future as well. But what he has done, he has got those clips, put them up for us, and left them well and truly violated.
Absolutely fantastic. So I hope I can't remember who it was who wrote in about that. Hopefully they've enjoyed watching those ones. So
It's Colin
goodness.
Epsworth, which is also the hospital where Colin got his leg removed.
There you go, eh? So very, very good. All right. Oh, we need a break from all the craziness. All right, now, fans, guess what? It's now time to stick in some bids and things because it is now time for a bit of audience participation because it's time for this.
Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth?
All right, so we're eBaying for this. What are we up to tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, because there was a bit of a theme of me opening cereal premiums, we're going to look at stuff that was given away in breakfast cereal and stuff to do with Kellogg's and cereal again. So if Greg's still around, let's see if he puts in $2 for this, because I think he knows some of this can go for quite a bit more.
All right, cereal premiums. This is a very exciting one. What are we kicking things off with, dude?
Well, this was to help commemorate the 1982 Commonwealth Games, where, I don't know if you could remember, they minted a coin that had the Commonwealth sports on one side of it. And Cornflakes, of course, gave you this amazing sleeve to keep your coin mint in. So this is from 1982, and it comes with the coin from that year as well.
Yeah, I do remember that. I didn't realize it came in a packet, though. That was the thing. So
I'll tell you what, if this goes for less than 50 cents, someone got ripped off.
And there were 4 bids for it too. So you do wonder, right? Because it's still only worth 50 cents even today when you sit and think about it. But yeah, I think it was at the time when they started doing really funky things with the coins, because prior to that, I think the coins never really changed that much. But then they said, oh, we could do really different ones. And of course, no one gives a rat's ass about the Commonwealth Games from 1982. But hey, they did a coin for it, so good on them too. All right, Mr. Phil's gone for $50. He's just changed the cents to the dollars. Andrew's gone for 52 cents. It would make sense. I like that from Colin. Yeah, it's just free. Just watch you cut it open. Kelvin's gone for 48 cents. Yeah, exactly. Lost value. I like that. 35 from Guy. Moneybag Sullivan has gone 20. Remember, it's still only worth 50 cents. William has gone for 100. Holy guacamole. Violating the Commonwealth. I haven't been able to say this for it seems like forever. Violating the Commonwealth Games is the Vile, as he often does, is $19.82. Absolutely love it. And Colin himself has gone for $1.50. Yeah, I always used to like it whenever they created new coins for something. Suddenly everybody be hoarding them, going, oh, these will be collectible in the future. And it's like, mate, you have to wait for 1,000 years for that to occur. But anyway, it came from Kellogg's Cornflakes. Now, if Kellogg's Cornflakes didn't exist anymore, if they had gone under, this would actually be worth a lot more. But as it is, they're still going. So the answer is probably not so much. All right, so what do you reckon it went for, fans? 1982. It was the 12th Commonwealth Games, which is probably up to like probably 15 by now, 16. Australian 50-cent coin on Kellogg's cornflakes packet. How much you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping. There were 4 bids. It went for a whopping $7.50, Mr. Aaron.
Well, you get your 50 cents back when you get the coin, don't you? So it is one of those things that really proves not all cereal premiums go for a fortune. $7.50. I think that's probably not even worth putting up on eBay.
And the irony is if you do take it out of the packet, it's only worth 50 cents. So there you go. Even though these days currency like this doesn't get used that very often. But anyway, Mr. Colin, you still got to cough up an extra $5 or whatever it is, $6. But it's all yours. How very exciting. Anyway, we're moving away from the Commonwealth Games. Here we go.
This is interesting. This isn't even released yet. It's a pre-order pop, and it's Tony Tiger. I don't know if you remember Tony Tiger, one of the breakfast cereal mascots. It's a Funko Pop. Kellogg's Tony the Tiger Jr. number 61. It's a pre-order. There's 1,000 units or 999. So it's a limited edition pop. Are you going to pop and get that one, Dags?
No, it was Frosties, wasn't it? Didn't they have a Tiger Frosties?
They did. That was right. Yeah, Frosties. They're great, mate.
That's it. No, the great mate was the shoe ad.
I think it was Frosties too, but I could be wrong.
No, Frosty never spoke, I think, but yeah, because there was the shoe ad, and it used to be Crosby's. They're great, mate. Woof.
Oh, that's right. Well, Tony Tiger ripped it off.
Dude, when it comes to dogs, I know all about dogs. Oh, that was just too good. All right, Angie's gone for 10 cents. You know what? I actually would probably knock 9 cents of that off. If Christy was here, she'd be going the 1 cent wonder big time. Colin's gone for 150. It is pre-order. Phil's gone for 15. Violating the Frosty vial. What is it? A tiger in it. Tiger is the vial for $10. Moneybag Sullivan's gone for 100. Greg has said, despite the cereal link, yes, indeed, definitely only $2 in the garage sale. Totally agree. Kelvin's gone for $1. Guy's gone for 70, and William's gone for 5. You would think that there are multiples of them because, as we know, that's what happens in a cereal. Yeah. Very, very cool. But as we said, it has been ordered, hasn't been released yet, and there's 1,000 of them. How exciting is that? Tony the Tiger Jr. Very exciting stuff. All right, so how much do you reckon it went for, kids? There was Funko Pop. So there's 1,000 in the world. Does that mean their value is going to increase or plummet? Who knows? But it went for a whopping $500, Mr. Aaron.
I have the Tiger. That was a really big surprise to me. It's 1,000, so there's a lot of them. Some of the pops that go for a bit, they have only 10 or 50 of them at Comic-Con, but 1,000 of them, it's not a full production run, but it's still enough that everyone who wants one will probably be able to grab it. I just think what is terrible about that, someone is selling it on pre-order for that amount. So that's a retailer is getting it probably for, whatever it costs wholesale. And instead of selling it at the $19 or $25, they're just cutting out the middleman scalper and they're going straight for $500 themselves.
Unbelievable. $500. And in time, it'll probably be worthless. So I think Colin, because there were a couple of bids that were really close together. So I originally thought Moneybags had it. But Colin, once again, he's doing it well with the 1, a 5, and the 0. You still got to cough up. He's still got to cough up an extra 300 and something bucks for it. But how good is that? Absolutely fantastic. But no, I would not buy this in a pink fit. Is he not the Cornflakes Tiger?
No, the Cornflakes.
No, the Cornflakes doesn't have a tiger.
Cornelius the Rooster.
Yeah, it's the Rooster. Yeah, exactly right. I don't even eat this stuff, and even I know that. But
the Frosty Flakes, which are like cornflakes covered in sugar.
Oh, yeah. I mean, every breakfast cereal they produce is just nothing but sugar. I used to think if you had a kid, who would feed their kid Fruit Loops, right? There's no friggin' fruit in Fruit Loops. It is nothing but crystallized sugar, and you watch them being a high for the rest of the day while you save up money for the dentist bills. Unbelievable. All right.
Fruit Loops were such a false advertising. So many times I opened up and looked for a drumstick or something else off that toucan, and I never got anything.
Well, there you go. Because don't forget, if I can, two can too. So there you go. All right, let's get along. Oh, here we go. Check this out.
Here you go. Here, this has got to go for a fortune, hasn't it? It's those little rinky-dinky packs of cereal that you only ever got to eat when you went away on holiday camping or something like that. So this is an unopened pack of Kellogg's mini cereals, but it's special because it's a variety pack advertising the Power Rangers. So it's morphin time.
I love the fact they're still in the packet. That really works for me. I don't want it. I wouldn't buy it, but I really respect the fact that someone's kept it that way. That is cool, in my opinion. That is a very, very groovy. It's a shame it's the Power Rangers because that just, in my opinion, just devalues it incredibly. But those little packs of cereal things, they were awesome because they're obviously for traveling. The only problem was if you had a big appetite and you go one box isn't enough. Give me the whole pack of the box of the same cereal, and that'll do me for breakfast. All right. Yes, very good. Yes, it was Sam the Toucan. Yes, indeed, duty dighty. Colin, I think I said it's $100 for this. Phil's gone for 20. Angie's gone for 5 cents. Oh, dude, that's a bit rough. It is the Power Rangers. I can kind of get it. A guy's gone for 8. And Moneybag Sullivan's gone for 2. William's gone for 50. And Kelvin has gone for 10. Violating the Power Rangers as the vile as he often does at 200. What does everybody else think? So Jalkin said Kellogg's Tony the Tiger. Yeah, that's what we think was on the Frosties box. It's all very exciting. What can I say? Good stuff. All right, so what does everybody else think? Unopened Kellogg's cereal, 1995. So there's still mint in the box from 1995. That is very groovy. Power Rangers, the movie. Well, that's not so groovy. Variety pack promo. And would it be funny if there were cereals in that box that don't exist anymore? That's probably where the extra value would come from, even though we can see here Special K still exists, as does Cornflakes. Don't know about the others. So what do you reckon they went for, fans? Unopened Kellogg cereal box, 1995. We went for a whopping $250. And when they came out, they probably went for only like $7 or $8. What do you reckon of that, Mr. Aaron?
All I have is bad memories of those because you'd go on holiday and your brother would get the Cocoa Pops and the cornflakes, and then you'd be stuck with the Special K. And like no one wanted the Special K when you were away camping. $250 is a good investment if you chuck them away in the bottom of the cupboard for 10 or 20 years, isn't it?
I mean, it's a shame it's Power Rangers. If it was some other franchise that was more popular, the price could go up. That works for me, right? $250 because nobody would have kept them minted like that. And the vial's got it. He's still got to cost $50.
Do you know the crazy thing, Dags? If you go and buy 8 packs of cereal today, you look at $250.
True. That's indeed dighty. Jacqueline's asked, have you missed the discussion? Hey, no, you haven't. It's coming up. We're running a bit behind time, so just sit tight. But it may not be the discussion you're expecting it to be. So we aim to disappoint. What can I say? But I like that because nobody would have bought these in a packet like this and kept it that way. Everybody else would have just ripped them out of the plastic and used the boxes. So the fact that someone had the foresight to do this is the kind of thing I would have done, right? And they've obviously come up smelling roses today. So that really works for me. And I'll be going, yep, last man standing. The last thing you want to do is get some wag to say, okay, I'll take them out of the packet because it's Power Rangers and ruin the value. But very, very good. All right, next item. Oh, speaking of boxes that are empty.
I'm not touching that. Anyway, vintage Kellogg's Rice Bubbles.
Very good.
It's just an empty vintage Rice Bubbles box from nearly 20 years ago. So this is Snap Crackle Pop icons. It's just an empty box though. No one would pay much for an empty box.
This is a very good observation. Rusky Babe said about the variety pack, you can actually use them as full-size boxes on Thunderbirds. That's actually very, very good. Oh, people say, how do they get the scale so correct? This is a classic Gladiators. What a complete load of tripe that was. All right, 2 cents for Ange, $2 for Colin. Moneybag Sullivan said 5. Philip's gone for 2. It was utter shit. It really, really was. And it's like, even some of the shows they do these days, like, the Ninja Warrior thing, ninjas don't do half the crap that they're doing, jumping over obstacles and all this sort of rubbish. It's completely the wrong sort of show. But yeah, Gladiators. Tell you what, I saved my my brain cells by not watching a single second of it. Violating the Gladiators, as the Vile often does, is at Vile at $10. Guy's gone for $25. Remember, it's just an empty box. William's gone for $1. $1 of an empty cardboard box from Rice Bubbles. Unbelievable. Someone has said, and there's 2 bids too. Someone has said, mate, it'll be a hit. Someone will go out there and buy it. But did they? So How much do you reckon it went for? Vintage Kellogg's Rice Bubbles, 1996. The only reason why they're selling it is because it's got the Gladiators thing on it. Might have even gone for more if there was no Gladiators on it at all. You never know. How much did it go for? It went for a whopping $1. So how do you get two bids, dude, for $1?
Maybe somebody wanted it so much they bid $1 and then they bid $2 just in case anyone tried to outbid them.
William, there you go, mate. Right on the dollar. There you go, dude. Happily, it is with you. You win it for $1. How about that? You get 1 cent back. Mate, I'm sure you're going to treasure it forever. Absolutely fantastic. So, yes, good stuff. Can I say, to me, straight out, I wouldn't even bother recycling it. Just toss it out and be done with it. But would you do it with this little dude, mate? Look at this.
Now, we've talked about these on one of our serial special shows a few months ago, and it's a crater critter, which were these little space aliens that were given away for years and years and years from the 60s and 70s and maybe even the early 80s by Kellogg's. And there was different series in different colors and rare ones and easy to get ones. So this is about as big as your thumb. It's a little plastic green alien.
It's a good observation. Rusky Babe said about the cardboard, the roast bubble box. He reckons that your dude may have actually had some of those floating around. It's certainly possible. All right, so a little green dude. What do you reckon? And there were 16 bids, mate. This is a popular puppy. 40 cents for Ange. Phil's gone for 100. Colin's gone for 280. Guy's gone for 185. So dark green, kindly crater critter. Oh, geez, that's hard to say in a hurry. Kindly crater critter. Okay, so what does everybody else think? $2 won't cut it with this one. Oh, you don't think so? Rusky Babes has gone for 65. A little green dude. How much do you want to buy a little green dude for? 16 bids. So clearly some people really like this puppy. What does everybody else have to say? $150 for Moneybag Sullivan. Surely he can't go for that much. As you said, he's about as big as your thumb. He's got not the happiest and prettiest looking dude around. $5 for William. Kelvin's gone for 5 as well. What does everybody else say? Remember, you got the word rare. When you put the word rare in there, suddenly people go, oh, must be worth something. Very good stuff. All right, so rare, dark green, kindly crater critter. Kellogg's R&L toys. Violating the little green dude is the Violet, $40. Absolutely fantastic. 16 bids. How much do you reckon he went for? Well, he went for a whopping 1,000 effing dollars. What's the deal with that?
Yeah, kind of wishing I didn't cut open my Indiana Jones cards now. But yeah, Crater Critters went for years and years and years, and people try to collect every single variant. Apparently the dark green ones are impossible to find. So some of these go for, $50, $60 each, and some of them go for $1,000. And this is one of the ones that goes for $1,000.
Unbelievable. So there you go. That is just nuts. And yes, and you just be mindful of the language out there. Kids, not saying to you, Phil, but previous comments. How insane is that? That's insane. I mean, can you justify that, do you reckon?
How can you justify anything like that? I've bought stuff for $1,000 where people think I was nuts as well. If you are a collector and that is the thing that floats your boat, you put your money where your mouth is, don't you?
Well, Colin's doing well tonight. He's got this one as well. So that's 3 you've got tonight, Colin. But you're still, once again, short. You've still got to cough up an extra $700. But I find the problem with that is if you take that home to your significant other and say, I spent $1,000 on this, you're going to be not so much of a significant other for much longer, I don't think. So
what do you think is worse, $1,000 on that or $20,000 on a carded yak face?
Well, that's true. So let's not get technical, dude. You make things more complicated than they need to be. All right, very, very good. So that's the end of that segment, and that's just absolutely crazy. So very good. Testimony to concept if supply and demand. Well, that's exactly what it is. But even you do wonder if things get to a point and you go, all right, that's just enough. But maybe the dude, whoever it was, had them all and was missing that one. And maybe they can think we can resell them again later on. And an extra number on top of that number. Very good stuff. All right, so where are we? Now, as always, if you haven't done so already, be sure to check out the Sci-Fi Zone socials on Instagram and Twitter and all that other stuff. There's a lot of things going on around the place at the moment, which is very, very exciting. And of course, if you do have a grand that you want to spend and you don't have you don't want to get a little green dude, and of course you want to go and check out Ronnie's Christmas things if and when they turn up, got to go to Aaron's store. Is that right, Mr. Aaron?
Absolutely. If you've got $1,000, you can come in and I'll tell you the whole estate story over and over again. I'll regale you with it in front of Dags, and he'll roll his eyes and walk off and pretend he's tidying stuff at the other end of the shop.
I can still hear what's going on, but yeah, anyway.
Stand under the TV and just listen to Super Friends.
You probably have Docky Who on just to torture me more. So there you go. Very good. So yeah, be
That's
sure
one
to
of
check
those
out.
interesting fun factoids about Aaron's Collectibles. Dags gets there 10 minutes before me so he can put on something that's not Doctor Who on the TV.
Yeah, exactly right. And unfortunately, there's no delete button on the thing, so I can't wipe it off the hard drive. So yes, with Christmas coming, make sure you go into Aaron's Collectibles and check it all out and buy something for your significant, whoever that happens to be. And be sure to check it out. It is very, very cool. All right, now guess what, fans? It's a strong argument not to take drugs. I don't know what we're talking about. What are we talking about?
Probably spending $1,000 on a crater critter.
Could be too. So very, very good. He's got about 10 grand sitting in the spare room. If they're all worth that, well, clearly yes. So, and there was a bidding war. Maybe the two people, they just refused to give up and they just went too far and all the rest of it. And yes, it was.
Do you know what I did when I saw that?
What?
I got out my bag of crater critters and made sure I didn't have that one, and I don't.
Very good. All right, now it's now time to move on to our feature presentation. And as was advertised, this is episode 42. And everybody assumed, and I'm sorry, Jacqueline, we are a show that disappoints, and we are not actually going to discuss the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. But instead, Mr. Aaron, what are we talking about?
Well, the thing is, you've got 42, which is the answers to life, the universe, and everything. And one of the things we notice every week, and it's something Dags and I have discussed, often a discussion will happen in the comments that we can't take part in because we're doing the show. And a lot of the times there's questions that are maybe off topic, or there's questions about collecting that we just can't get back to. And we thought we were going to take this episode where you can ask Deep Thought, us, anything you would like to know about our history and fandom, our collectibles, and anything like that. And while you're doing that, Dags and I are going to just briefly interview each other, and you can join in. So this is a question and answer session where you can get the answers to life, the universe, and collectibles.
So we're doing it differently. And I think, we've been here all year talking about all this stuff, and it's been really good. And a lot of people have tuned in for a lot of the episodes. And and I was to say it's been great. I keep getting messages saying we've got Facebook issues, but everybody's still with us. So I don't know what's going on with that. But anyway, let's move on. So it's kind of an interesting one. So we're sort of just going to play this. Hang on, we've just lost a whole lot of people. Yeah, we have lost connection. All right, dude, I'm going to get you to say something for a couple of ticks.
No problem. So
I'm going to remove myself. I'm just going to leave you on your own for a second while I see what's going on. Okay.
No problem. So I don't know who's getting me. It might be just the people who are watching on YouTube. But the first episode of the show where I'm not a very confident public speaker, and Dags and I were still working out the format for the show, we kind of threw it open at the beginning, a bit about our history and a bit about our time in fandom and what we collect and what we enjoy. And we both kind of brushed over it really fast and awkwardly because both of us were having trouble on the first episode of the show getting out what the format was going to be. So we kind of fixed that on this episode, and we were taking questions and answers and talking about fandom. Now, Dags is still trying to fix up the Facebook stream. I think everybody, some people from Facebook are back. That's why you've just got me, because he's doing the back end technical. Yep, switch that back over. So I guess Dags and I were going to start just by talking about our histories in fandom, and I guess me in collectibles. I'm going to keep waffling until you say you're going to join back in.
That's okay. I know for the people watching this on replay, it won't really matter. Anybody watching this live, we just lost our Facebook connection. What at a crucial moment too, which is a bit unfortunate. And I'm not sure if people are going to be able to make it back or not. So we're going to have to continue on as per normal. I was getting messages saying that something had happened earlier, and we're not sure what it is. Yes. So I don't have any questions, dude. Actually, I'll give you an easy one. So you've obviously been in fandom for a period of time. So we're talking about back in the 80s. So just give us a bit of a quick history regarding your history, so to speak.
Okay. Well, I'll go right back. The very first memories I probably have, this isn't just a fandom, this is everything, is probably of Doctor Who. I can remember being absolutely terrified by it. And I think a lot of people have this experience mainly because it's a show that's a children's show that parents let their kids watch, but it's a bit more adult than the other kids' shows that are on in the same time slot. So I think when you have something burnt into your memory so young, it does something to you that gives you nostalgia for it your whole life. So my first memories of science fiction and fandom were actually the Peter Cushing movie, Doctor Who and the Daleks. And I remember being absolutely terrified by the whole situation. And I remember being sat down at about 3 and just being left to watch it as a 3-year-old. And I remember particularly the scene where the Doctor is in the cell and they use the mashed up food to sort of blind the Dalek and escape. So I saw that as a youngster and didn't realize for years and years after that that was from Doctor Who. But the thing that really terrified me was the red Dalek, because we had a red lamp in our house and it was behind a frosted glass sliding door. When the door was open, you could see it was a lamp. But when you're a 3 or 4-year-old and the door is closed and you just see this big conical red light, to me, it appeared to be like a Dalek. And so at the same time as this, I have very vague memories of Doctor Who in black and white. My very first memory, I think, is Kroll, which is a giant octopus, pulling some of the refinery workers into pipes, which would be, probably the late 70s, where I was about 5. And then from that series onward, I kind of remember bits and pieces from everything going forward. So they're my earliest memories of science fiction and what led me into fandom. Dags, what would be your earliest sort of memory that might have jolted you onto the fan path?
Oh, okay. So for my backstory, so obviously, I shouldn't say it's obvious because it's not obvious. So I obviously saw Star Wars when in '77 when I was 10 years old, and that's what turned me into a sci-fi fan. But the fandom thing, it's a bit of an interesting one. So so the Facebook version of the show ended, but the YouTube one is still going. Yeah, I'm just surprised. The Facebook thing, we've had a loss, and I'm not sure. So we've lost part of our audience, which is funny because we're actually asking people to ask us questions. What was I going to say? Oh, that's right. And so I became a fan of Star Trek in the early '80s, especially with Star Trek 2, mainly because of, believe it or not, Kirstie Alley played Sarek, and I was, young teenager at the point and got the hots for her. So when I'd heard that Star Trek 3 was coming out in 1984, I thought she would be in that as Sarek again. And I thought, I've got to make sure I check this film out. And as it turned out, there was a radio promotion to see the preview screening in October of that year. And I rang up for tickets and I got them, which I thought, how good is that? So I go along to the screening by myself for the preview screening of Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And as it turned out, Kirstie Alley wasn't in the movie after all. They replaced her with a different actress. But Austrek were there, the Star Trek fan club, doing a bit of a promotion for themselves. And they actually got to walk down the front and they're wearing all their costume uniforms and all that sort of thing. It was really, really groovy. It just blew my mind. And they're all women too. It was all females. And they said Austrek was here as part of the fan club. And for that reason, after that, I made sure I got myself a flyer and I went ahead and joined them. But on the same night, I actually ran into a friend of mine who I knew from high school. Now, she was about 4 or 5 years ahead of me. And we sort of like, do you go to this school? We go to the same school. I mean, by that point, I'd left school. But she said, have you got any interest in amateur theatre? And, of course, me being a little teenager, I said, yeah, absolutely, And I didn't realise this at the time. But there was actually an amateur theatre group created by sci-fi fans in fandom, right? And so I joined that. The very next week, right? And I've even got a picture of it. It was called Star Force, right? Most people don't even know this thing even existed. It only lasted for 4 years, right? But I was involved with amateur theatre with a theatre group full of sci-fi fans. And the thing that really worked for me is the fact that they were all the same age as me, primarily, right? Teenagers, early 20s, whatever. And there's a couple of photographs of some of the stuff that I was involved with. And so it was a really good time. So I was coming at it from 2 different angles. The Star Force side and the Austrek side. And so the Star Force thing, the theatre group, we were meeting every weekend, both Saturday and Friday nights, to put on shows and whatever else. And it just got it right at the point in when I joined that they hit their peak, and that was when they did a big Halloween show in '84, and it was really, really great. By the time we got into '85, things had changed a bit, and the structure of the group had changed. But and then like 3 years later, it all sort of folded up. But it was a good time. And then so I had Austrek at the same time. So I had the Star Trek fan club going on. And of course, the thing with the Star Trek fan club side, and for those who don't know, that's good old Austrek there. I ended up sticking around with those guys for such a long period of time that eventually they made me a what do you call it? A life member,
honorary member
back in 2016. So yeah, it's
wow,
very, very cool.
So interestingly enough, I probably found fandom at about the same time as you, but I was a lot younger, and I just had a long-suffering father that I managed to get to drag me around to different meetings. And what happened, I didn't have an experience like you through an event. I found flyers at Minotaur Books for something called the Doctor Who Club of Victoria, and I at that point did not think that fandom existed in Australia. I got Doctor Who magazine, and I thought fandom was something that was only in America and England, because there was nothing about Australian fandom in the magazine, but there was lots about English, British, the Doctor Who Appreciation Society, and the American fan club. So I was stunned to find something locally. And my first meeting was actually at the Collingwood Education Centre, and it was a Christmas meeting. And I think I might have met Greg King there. So in the mid 80s, about 84, 85. And I think he was hosting, helping out with the auction on the day with Tom Malweedy as well on that day. So at that time, I was only a little kid. And so in fandom, I wasn't really taken that seriously. And it was more, I think people thought my dad was the fan, but he wasn't at all. And I was so shy and withdrawn at the auction, I wouldn't even bid. I would tell my dad what I wanted. And even though I had the money, get him to bid for it because I was too embarrassed to put my hand up. So that's my earliest experience with fandom. Now, Dags, do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah. There was a collector's fair that we went to in the 90s. That's when I bought things from you. But I think I saw you before then at a Doctor Who gig, because I remember you were a dealer there and you were very young. And I thought at the time, because I wasn't interested in Doctor Who merchandise, funnily enough, today I'm still not. But I remember seeing you there. And it's just funny because you seem like a little kid selling stuff, which was a really bizarre sort of thing to see. Normally it's all that old blokes and whatever, but no, is a young dude there. And of course you were a bit of a good looking dude at the time. And I must admit, I did think it's like, well, that is not the stereotypical image of a Doctor Who fan. But who knew that that was your forte for the future, that it was going to be your thing. But I can't remember what the event was, whether it was a Christmas party, what, I just don't know. But I do remember seeing you once, but I never spoke to you. I just remember seeing you in the distance. Yeah.
We've spoke about this. We attended many events at the same time. We went to sort of the Indiana Jones cinema event at Belgrave and Star Wars ones, but we didn't know each other at the time. I do remember, I think Jeffro introduced us at a Paran fair and kind of said, you collected Batman. And I said, I have some Batman stuff. And then every sort of fan club meeting I was at after that, I would try and bring some Batman stuff to tempt you.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I just remember the one time I was going through a collector's fair and there was a table full of stuff, and you were there with, I assume it was your brother or somebody else, and I bought things off you. And obviously I've still got them, which was particularly groovy, but there's a lot of it it just doesn't register. You were a bit like Jeffro to a large degree, where you had a reputation around who you were, as to who you were. And people would say, oh, that's Aaron Challenger, he's a big Doctor Who dealer here. And I knew you from that. But I didn't put all these dots together until much, much later on. But either way, when it came to dealers, you were always there. I mean, I think there's been occasions where you and I have been to the same event, and I certainly wasn't aware that you were there. And you've obviously got a better recollection of these things than I have. But yeah, I don't know. I guess if it came down to, if you had nothing that I was interested in, which in this case was Doctor Who stuff, I would just walk right on by. Yeah.
It is one of those things, and I've discussed this with Dags, where I'm actually jealous of his life in fandom, because usually I went to all the same events, but I was stuck in the dealer's room the whole time. So Dags has talked about all these amazing balls and fan films and events that happened at different conventions. And like, yeah, I was stuck in the dealer's room looking after a table because usually I would be there by myself. My dad would drop me off and then pick me up at the end of the day. So we did go to a lot of similar events and have similar memories of people and events, but we have a totally different perspective because you're more of the fandom running it and taking part of it, and I'm more of the huckster room dealing and talking with other collectors.
See, this is a good example. So you had actually, oh, I'm sorry, the collectophilia things, right?
Yeah.
Now this is the second science fiction collectibles fair. So I know I went to this. There's a good chance that you were there too, probably with the table, right?
Yeah.
But I don't remember you were there at all. But I know you probably were there. And the collectophilias became a bit of a thing. Now I think this is the ad for the really big event that occurred in St Kilda, but some collectophilias took place in Hawthorne, if I recall.
Hawthorne. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure you would have been there, but no, it just doesn't. Yeah.
Well, it was one of those things. Pretty much any of those record fairs, toy fairs, sci-fi days, I had a table there, and then any of the big fan club conventions I would go. I didn't go to every Doctor Who meeting or Star Trek meeting. I only ever went to a couple of Star Trek meetings because I just didn't have the Star Trek stuff to sell. Doctor Who Club, I'd usually go to the Christmas meetings and maybe take a table of stuff to the AGM. And again, Phil Nichols, I remember from Christmas meetings the first time way back, sort of Phil, who's the president of the Doctor Who Club of Victoria now. I don't know if he's here still or can confirm it, but he was going to the meetings when he was pretty young as well.
Well, that's right, because I actually got some video footage of Phil at a Doctor Who Club meeting back in 1993 when he was just a strapping young lad at that time, because Jeffro was running the Who Club at that point, and he was having a trivia pursuit day, and I had the video camera, it was his video camera if I recall, and I just filmed it all, and I sent that footage through to him a few months ago. You were saying about, like, it's my history in the whole fan community. It's a bit of an interesting one. I'm not always a big fan about talking about the things that I've done because it is a long list. And just as a sample, right, this is on my website, right? I don't expect people to read that. So it starts in 1984 up there, and it goes down to 1994 down there, and that's not even half of it, right? And that's all the things. That's not things I've attended. That's things that I've organised and been a part of.
Yeah.
And if you want to see the rest of that list, that's the website you need to go to. It's my personal list. And it doesn't even include things like the fan films or anything like that I was involved with. So I find it a bit awkward to say, yeah, well, I kind of did this and I kind of did that and I kind of was involved with this and I've done this and done this and done this and done this. So, and like, this is just the page. And in 1994, that doesn't even include all the stuff that was happening interstate and some of the other conventions, not even the conventions I organised.
Yeah.
It's extensive, putting it that way. And I found that... I guess you could say I found my calling once I was in the thing. So what happened to me is that I discovered that when you're brought onto a committee for a club or a convention, you've got to do something. And sometimes you've got to find a talent you didn't even know you had. And once I got involved with Star Walking, the Star Wars fan club, right, which I helped to co-found, right, obviously things were going to happen with that. And I thought, well, there's nothing I can do. I mean, I've got no skills whatsoever. We're going to remember at this point, I'm still pretty young. I'm only like 20 years old or 21. And they were going to run a convention in 1989, the Star Walking, the first convention. But to do that, they had to do hosting a launch party at ZenCon in 1988. And I thought, well, I've got to do something, but what am I going to do? And that's where I discovered the whole thing of doing DJ work, doing music for events. And so I discovered a talent for that I didn't know I had. Later on, I discovered a talent for auctioneering that I didn't know I had. And I discovered a talent for MC work, which I didn't know I had. But I had to learn all this stuff just so I could become a part of it all. And that sort of just grew. And once that occurred, I was getting sort of shanghaied into all these other events. And as I said to you before we went on air, like when Star Walking was launched, I mean, it was like the one club in the world effectively by itself. And so we were the king of the hill and everybody turned to us whenever they wanted things done. And as a result, I ended up doing all these different things and I had fingers in pies all over the place. And it was good. And for me, I was in my element. I just felt, mate, I just jumped into it and I said, you want something done? I'm here to do it. And because unlike a lot of people, by the time we got into the into the 1990s, every single friend I had, without exception, was all in the fan community. There was no one outside. For me, it was just the community and nothing else. And so I devoted everything to it. I really did.
Well, I'll tell you something as well. It is interesting with fandom. Often the friends that I've made in fandom are the longest running fans because longest running friends because you have a common interest. And though like schools and friendship groups and relationship status changes, you often stay a fan of the same thing your whole life. So they are the friends that stay. And it's one of those things where we talk about we've been in fandom for a long time, but you look at the people watching us and you've got the Wellborns and you've got Greg King and you've got Russell, and they've all been around for as long as us. I don't remember a time when I kind of didn't know them in fandom. And Phil as well, who's been, he's the president of the Doctor Who Club. He was there way back too. What you were saying about the talent for auctioning and different things you find in fandom. We've shared this story before. I got Dags to convert some video files for me, and he actually I found some stuff of me auctioning stuff at a Doctor Who Club of Victoria meeting. He got back to me because you're never going to believe it. I got the footage of you and I'm in the audience and I don't even remember being there. So it is one of those things where those fandom connections are very strong because there are so little good fan events that you often find all the same people go to all the good ones.
Well, yeah, and that was a Christmas party, and that was an absolute spin out to me. So Rusky Bates asked about no Hamels. Yeah, so the thing about Hamels is that Hamels was the Star Wars fan club, and at one time it was the only club in the world between 1981 and 1987. Now, I knew about Hamels in the early 80s, but I never joined it because I saw a couple of their newsletters, and you got to remember, I was a massive Star Wars fan at this point. But I'd always existed in just my own little world, right? And you think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a big fan. I know everything, yada, yada, yada. You get a newsletter from a fan club and you turn to the pages, you're reading all these articles, you're seeing all these drawings and pictures and stuff. And you go, mate, it's freaking me out. I can't compete with these guys. They're way too cool. And as a consequence, I never joined, right? Now, as it turned out, I became really good friends with the guy who was running the Melbourne chapter, Shane Morrissey. And for years, he was bugging the shit out of me. Why haven't you joined? Why haven't you joined? And in 1987, I said, fine, I'll capitulate and I'll join. And then at that point, the club closed, right? Now, the irony part of this story is that fast forward 10 years later, right? And when we were doing our Skyforce meetings, and I used to run the Skyforce meetings both in Melbourne and in Sydney, and we were pretty full on. We were hardcore, right? Massive fans. And I know, I can almost bet your bottom dollar, there were people turning up to those events saying, I'm not going to join the club because we are to the be all and end all. And of course, I was a lot of that. So, in a complete role reversal, there would have been people, I think, who would not have joined Star Wars in the club because of me. Because it was when you're in like that environment and everybody's just in the zone, you get people who go, oh, I'm a big Star Wars fan. They come into a Skyforce meeting, and I used to run a lot of the meetings and do a lot of the talks, just freaking blowing people out of the water just from this nerdy shit in my head. And that would have freaked some people out. And I know that for a fact because that would have been me. I would have walked in and go, nah, I can't compete. I'd rather be a fan in my own little world. I'll just go back to where I came from. And that's what happened with the Hamels thing. So I never joined Hamels. But I know for a fact people wouldn't have joined Star Wars and because of me. So how's that for just complete role reversal of
I
situation?
can actually understand that because we've got a question there, but I'll just address what you were saying as well. When I went to the Doctor Who Club, I was so young. It wasn't that the club was cliquey, but I just found everyone older than me. So it was very, very hard to sort of get into any friendship groups because why would, 20-year-olds want to talk to a 12-year-old? And there were some nice people. Some of the girls that were there was Judy McGillis and Jodie and a couple of other, Lucy, who was another lovely person, would often be the ones that, kind of got stuck with talking to me about merchandise and stuff like that, while all the cool dudes went and talked about video trading and things like that. So I can understand why sometimes it is quite hard for someone to go cold to a fan club meeting and start a conversation or be accepted. And that's why I think it's really important for people who run fan clubs to look out for these people and be very inclusive of them when they turn up, because otherwise fandom will die. Now, we had a question from YouTube. For each of you, what is your number one favorite collected item, and B, your most valuable collected item? So
Well,
have you had
before you answer that, I did see a comment from Rusky Babes, which I'll put on the screen. So Russell, I haven't forgot about you. Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So it's really hard for me because it swings around what's my favorite. And it really depends on if you're talking about my favorite growing up for nostalgia, which would probably be just a magazine. It was the Doctor Who 20th anniversary special because it was the first magazine when I was growing up that had a list of all the episodes and a list of the titles, what happened of a synopsis in them, and behind the scenes, and lots of color photos, which before the internet, Doctor Who magazine was black and white and never had a list like that. So I read that magazine until it basically fell apart because it was just the Bible for Doctor Who fans at the time. And now it's like a quaint little magazine from the past, but it still holds a lot of interest for me and love just because of what it was in my childhood. What is the most valuable thing I've had? The Doctor Who pinball machine, which is thousands and thousands of dollars. The craziest one I had, I got a Doctor Who shoebox from Dalek slippers in the 60s, and I think it's the only shoebox the shoes are impossible to get. The shoebox, I think it's the only one that exists. So that was incredibly rare, and I did sell that for more than I've ever sold anything before, but I won't say what I sold it for, but it was a crazy number.
Yeah, for myself, favorites and most valuable. I can give you an idea as to what my most valuable would be. I don't know if I have favorites. It's the whole collecting thing. I sort of stopped it like 20 years ago. I'd have to really sit and think about it, and it's probably something really bizarre and left field. But I will show you something that generates the most of any interest. So I had to dig these pictures up. So in terms of valuable, I would have to argue this is right at the top of the list. So, I mean, a lot of people make jokes about it. It's the chocolate Batmobile, which is 30 years old this year. It's still in the box, as you can see there, and it's in the refrigerator of my fridge, right? It's been there for 30 years, and there are like none of these around anywhere. I'd have to assume that this is the only one of its type in the world. I'd have to think that for Batman Returns, right? Because I was a big Batman collector in the time. I mean, sure, it's gone a little bit white, but it's still complete. And how the picture shows it, that's exactly how it looks today. And a lot of people talk about the chocolate Batmobile still being, it's in the butter drawer, actually, and I have a sticky tape down so it can't be opened. And of course, you're thinking, well, that's just absolutely nuts and insane, but it's part of the joke. Yeah, you buy it, you put it in the fridge, you go, oh, I'll see how long this lasts for. Who knows? If you get it for 2-3 years, how good is that? And of course, 30 years later, it's still there. But the next thing that goes along with that, it generates a lot of interest, is I actually bought ice creams for Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Or Batman and Robin I couldn't stand, but I actually bought ice creams from the store and put them in the freezer of the fridge, and they're still there. So that's 95 and 97. So that's 20 something years they've been in the fridge for. Okay, and I think I've got 4 of each. So I've just photographed 2 of them here, and a lot of people talk about that too. And it's more than anything, it's amazing how much of a conversation piece that is. People say, you've still got ice creams in the fridge. You go, yeah, absolutely. So to me,
Well,
they would have to be worth a lot. And of course, with the ice creams, the joke behind that is that I'd heard a story, it could be an urban myth, that in the 1960s, there was a dude who had Thunderbirds ice creams, put them in his freezer back in the old-fashioned big clunky freezer drawer thing. And he was afraid that he'd lose power and they'd all melt. So he sold them off and got thousands of dollars for them, right? Because they're the only ones left in the world. Now, to be fair, Thunderbirds is way more valuable than Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. But when these things came out, I thought, well, I'll just do the same thing. I'll just get them and chuck them in the freezer. If they last a couple of years, I've had a bit of fun with it, right? Decades are all on, and they're still there. So, and I think that is the thing that, in terms of value, would be there, and it's certainly in terms of generating conversation and interest for people, definitely. So, yeah.
So I've told this story before, where I had the same idea with Empire Strikes Back icy poles, and I kept them because they were disgusting. I ate one and it was a really bad tasting icy pole. So there were 6 in the box. Put the box in the corner of the freezer and had them for about 5 years. And then went down to Phillip Island for Christmas holidays for 2 weeks. And while we were down there, there was a power cut, and the freezer defrosted, and then it came back on and refrosted again. And when we got back, there was a solid block of ice with sort of a mutated ice creams and stuff in it. And we had to throw it out. And even then I was saying to my parents, no, we can defrost it and we can save them. And they're like, it's all going in the bin. So that's quite sad. But it is funny how collectors do these things. No one else does that kind of stuff.
No, totally right. Rusky Base wrote earlier on, so his party joined Phantom Experience was RMIT Sci-Fi and Comic Club, run by none other than John Taliano, who runs Alternate Worlds now, and Jenny McLean, who was a big fan personality back in the day. And of course, I've known Rusky Babes since the 80s. I was the best man at his wedding, in fact. So how pretty groovy is that? So there are certain people in the fan community who used to have a stigma associated with them and say, oh, there's that dude there and there's that dude there. And Russell was definitely one of those people. Jeffro was another one. There's a whole handful of people. Now, a lot of those people have gone from the community now. One of the things that I got to see, and this is bizarre at the best of times, is seeing the transition between people and fans and how they come and go and come and go. An example of that was in 1991. Austrek, the Star Trek fan club, was really big at the time. They did really, really well. Had a lot of people going. It was just a fantastic time to be there. It was their 15th anniversary. And a dude decided to make a bit of an in-house documentary of the club, interviewed all these people, put them all into the video. Now, I have a copy of that video, the 15th anniversary, right? And everybody, all these people got interviewed, including the founder and this, that, and all these other dudes, including me for a fraction of the time. As of today, every single person in that video has gone. And they didn't just leave yesterday. They left a decade ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago. The only person still there is me. Right. And all those people got replaced by a new batch of people who then got replaced by a new batch of people. And the only consistent factor who's been going to all these gigs and just been hanging around like a bad smell for now it's 38 years has been me. And that's kind of weird when I look at all my friends today and I go, there was a time when I didn't know any of them. Right. And then I had a whole bunch of friends before them. Now, Russell has been consistent through that entire journey. And of course, there's a couple of other guys, but at least in terms of the community as it is today, it's just a weird thing. And you would have seen it too, just this constant transition of people. And sometimes you don't even know where they went. They just disappear and you go, where did they go? Nobody knows, but they've just been replaced by a new bunch of people. So
do you find it hard to go to a fan club meeting now if there's no one you know there and you're just going to support the meeting and no one knows who you are?
I know everybody now. It's very rare. I'd have to go to an interstate event to walk in and be completely unknown. And as it turned out with Austrek, one time a few years ago, the founder of the club turned up, right? And he said to me later on, he was hoping to just come in there quietly, just sit down and watch the show. No one recognised him except me. And I go, oi, he's the guy who started the club. And everybody just turned straight to him. And that was it. He couldn't hide it after that. But no, it just depends on your mindset, really. I'm keen to sort of go to a Star Walking gig in either Sydney and probably even Queensland if the opportunity arises and just see what happens and just see where it all goes. But I'm sort of like one of those faces that have been around for so long now. I'd be surprised if nobody knew who I was. Having said that, I did find it funny that this is like a long time ago now. There was an Austrek meeting. We went to dinner afterwards. There was a couple of new people there, and I tend to communicate with a lot of new fans. And I said, how long have you been in the club for? And they said, I only just joined today. One person said that. And the other person joined a month ago. And when they asked me how long I've been here for, I said, 15 years. And that was a long time back then. Now, of course, that was freaking decades ago. So
you are actually a bit of an anomaly, though, because you would have seen this too, I'm sure. When I was on the committee for a couple of years and everyone on the committee when I was there kind of left and we never really went back. And that happens again and again. The committee before us kind of left and never came back. And I've seen it happen in the Star Trek club as well. And I didn't know the Star Wars club as well, but Skywalking, you might have noticed that as well.
Yeah, it's a common, you learn a lot of things as time goes on. One of the most common things that occurs is that if somebody goes to a fan club event for a period of time, they then join the committee for that event, that club. They stay for whatever time they're doing. When they leave, for the most part, they leave and they leave for good. They never return. You can almost count on one hand how many people stick around. It's just, I don't know what it is. Maybe they get burnt out or they get jaded or they just don't want to see what's happened to the place after they've gone, but they just depart. And that's one of the reasons why for Austrek, I never joined the committee ever, right? I've never been on the committee at any point. Some people assumed I did, but I said, no, I didn't. Star Walking I did, but not for Austrek. And I thought, why would I leave? I've got nowhere else to go, right? This is such a big part of my existence as to who I am. I couldn't just up and leave it and go, well, I'll just stay home now and not be a part of it. Different people do things differently for different reasons. But I thought, well, no, I'm going to just stay here. So, so that's sort of where it came from me. Yeah.
So I only really stayed in contact with fandom because I'd still do tables once in a while, and for the longest time I'd support the Club of Victoria by letting them sell merchandise when I didn't have a chance to and things like that. But we reconnected because I went to an anniversary meeting and had a table and span you out because you rocked up and go, oh, he's got a picture of that Aaron Challenger dude who I used to buy stuff of, and it was me. I just like grown up and looked different.
Well, that's exactly right. Rusky Babes has also said that he got to know me because we got to go to the Star Trek Marathon projection booth, which is true. It's a vague memory. So the Austrek meetings used to occur on the first Saturday of the month, and then on the same day that the Star Trek marathons were occurring in the city. So Austrek would have their meeting in the day, have dinner afterwards, and go into the city to see these shows. But of course, we never went into the cinema. We stayed outside to hang around with the friends in the next few hours. You got to remember, everybody was the same age. So everybody's sort of in their late teens, early 20s. It was just a really, really good time to be there. But on this one occasion, I think there was an episode that we really wanted to see. I think it may have been, no, I've just gone blank. And somehow or other, I don't know how it managed it, Rusky Babes and I ended up going to the projection booth because the cinema was full, watching the episode from up there. I think it was a piece of the action, I think. Don't quote me on that. And I think that's sort of where we sort of got a connection. So it is kind of funny that after all these decades, we're still together. So yeah,
It's
and you are right.
interesting.
Yeah, the club has, most clubs do. They will regenerate several times. People go, people come, people go, people. It's just the nature of how they work. Sorry, dude.
It is interesting. William's comment there. My brother Kelvin had such a bad experience as president of the Doctor Who Club of Victoria. He left, coming back occasionally. It is one of those things that happen. People aspire to be on the committee and run the club, and when they actually get there, they don't realise it either isn't easy, or there's a lot of different factions, or it's hard to do, or there's a lot of backstabbing and things like that, which is one of those things that I guess is unavoidable sometimes in fandom, I guess, in cliquey groups. And I know that I was on the committee for 2 years, and I would have only been on the committee for 1 year, except we bankrupted the club, and basically the committee had to stay for an extra year to get the club back into the black, so we could hand over to the next committee and not be, the club, the committee that destroyed the club. But it was really hard. And a lot of people, don't appreciate the amount of time that goes into running these things.
It's like Game of Fans. That's exactly right. Because, and it's kind of ironic, right? I mean, back in the day, the clubs, all of them were so big and so successful. There was a bit of an ego thing that went with it. I'm in charge of this. I'm king of the hill, and not realizing that in the end it is actually meant to be for fun and for enjoyment. But there'd always be someone who'd want to topple somebody somewhere, and there'd be political issues and all the rest of it. Who knew that fast forward 3 decades, they'd all be fighting with, like, trying to join with each other just to survive. But I get it. There's a big attendance. It's very popular. Everybody's really getting in the zone with it all. And all it takes is for someone at the bottom of the food chain to say, well, I think the guy at the top of the food chain is not doing a good job. I want their job. Whether they can do it or not is irrelevant. They just want it, because a lot of people got the big buzz of being the boss of a club. And unfortunately, a lot of them didn't end well. And it's just the way it happens. And of course, you are right. When someone leaves under unhappy circumstances, they ain't coming back. And with Austrek, that had a massive, I'm not going to go through the whole story, but they went through a massive upheaval in the sort of mid-ish 90s, lost a massive proportion of people, and those people never returned ever again, even after the people who caused the problem in the first place all left. The name was tarnished badly.
I think it's one of those things. We enjoy fandom, and if fandom suddenly starts making us enjoy less what we're fans of, then you just leave it behind. I have to say, Kelvin left on a high, because I'm pretty sure he ran the Enlightenment convention, which was one of the best conventions in Melbourne up to that point, and sort of bowed out at that, I think, because I think we took over as the committee. I think I was a general member of the committee with Kelvin when he was president, but then it wasn't until the next year that I became more involved in the committee. He could probably tell me if that's right or wrong, but I do remember that being a particularly successful event that a lot of people consider one of the best run conventions in Melbourne for Doctor Who.
Oh, you talking about Enlightenment? Sorry, I was
Yeah.
just thinking of something completely different. So yeah. I've got a picture of. Yeah, I actually went to Enlightenment because Enlightenment was actually where we're promoting one of the conventions that I ran, and I loved it. I had a great time. It was absolutely awesome. I was really surprised actually how enjoyable it was, and it was really, really good. It made me think, oh, I should have gone to these events more often. So
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's the way it goes.
As always, I was stuck in the dealer's room at Enlightenment, and I actually didn't think the security was so good because it was just in a hotel open foyer. So I actually slept under the table to make sure nothing got nicked over the weekend. So that was my contribution to the committee, merchandise security guard.
There was a comment here about the I've lost it. Kelvin said went to the MSFC for a few years. The MSFC, Melbourne Science Fiction Club, in the late 80s, early 90s, went through a massive resurgence in terms of success. And a lot of people, every Friday night, they would meet at their St. David's Church Hall. And it was like if you had nothing else on a Friday, that's where you went. And it got to a point you would actually bypass other events to go. And they obviously had to put on like themed all the nights. You know, I mean, even though it was a church hall, and they had their library and whatever else, they would say, well, this night's a trivia night, then they're doing a games night, then they're doing a cooking night, then they're doing a blah, 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 and a movie night and whatever. And it was the go-to place for years and years and years. And this is after they moved out of the Space Age Books location. And the MSFC was great. So unlike just about every other state in the country and probably the world, you could go to a fan event every weekend without fail. Even if there was nothing on the Saturday or the Sunday, Friday night the MSFC was on in Melbourne for years and years and years, right? With the exception probably of Christmas and frigging New Year's Day and Good Friday and whatever. If there wasn't a convention on or a fan club, it would be a fan club meeting, and if not, the MSFC. And that's the kind of thing where you don't realise that, you know, you can say, I've spent the 7 years of my life every weekend at something, as opposed to having to wait like we do today, months and months and months between gigs. So no wonder it was easy to just be absorbed by this thing. And you got to a point you go, you know, I don't want to miss it. I want to be there all the time. Some were better than others, obviously. It all depended on who turned up. And it's fantastic.
Russell asked what happened with the bankrupting of the club. I can quickly tell you what happened. There was a fanzine called The Frame, which came out, I think, about every 2 or 3 months. And what happened, we got a couple of them in, and I think we got 5 the first time, and everyone on the committee took them, and we were reading them at the meeting, and all the other members were like, oh, it's not fair. The committee grabbed them all from the merchandise department before they were put out. So the next month we bought about 10, and again the same thing happened. They all disappeared really fast. So we go, okay, if everybody wants them, we'll get a proper amount in. So we got about 30 in, and then the next month we got 30, and the next month we got 30. And when we had plenty for everyone, the same 5 or 6 people bought them and no one else bought them. And so at the time, if you bought like 100 fanzines that you couldn't sell from overseas, that was a few $100s. And at the time, that was enough to bankrupt the club. You've got to remember, memberships were only about $12 a year, and that just went to printing Sonic and stuff like that. So we were stuck with all these fanzines that we couldn't sell, and then we had Sonic to produce, and so it was done covertly for free in different people's workplaces and things like that. And over the next year, we did charity auctions and things like that to pay off the frame debt, as we call it. So that's one of those things that made me stay in the committee an extra year.
Yes, the dark stories of clubs. It's very interesting when you sort of start analysing it and looking into the history of it. It's kind of funny because it's one of two evils. Because there was a comment here from Ange saying, this is Austrek in the 90s, members ran the meetings, not just the committee. If a club is so big, right, it can have this massive wave of success, but the politics kind of takes over and it gets awkward because the egos kick in. If you do the opposite, hang on.
Sorry.
But if you run a club that's really, really small, you go, beauty, I'm in charge of it. I've only got like 15 members, 20 members. I can do whatever I want. Everybody loves it. But the problem is it won't last. The sustainability isn't there because no one's there to replace it at the end. Which do you prefer? So, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, when a fan club gets too big, there's lots of people that want to be on the committee and that can't get there. That's when split-offs happen, and you find there's a second fan club because someone who wanted to be on the committee couldn't get there. So they go, right, I'm just going to form my own club. And, you know, they take a group of friends away with them, and it's usually not beneficial for either club.
No, and I like Russell's right here. Now the problem with clubs is getting someone who wants to run it, and the issue is, and because I've analysed this a lot over my time, is that it's the age issue. Now, internet, social media issues notwithstanding, if you're going to get people to run a club or a group or anything, they've got to be of a certain age group, right? Because they're young and they come in, they're full of energy, full of beans, whatever. And of course, when I came into the scene, especially with Austrek, we ended up replacing all the fans of the 60s. People who used to love Star Trek of the 60s. They were in their early 20s, late 20s, whatever. We get these teenagers turning up, and we effectively scared them all off. They all just ran away, right? Putting it in simple terms, right? They couldn't handle it. Now, what you needed is for people to come in later on, and replace us, and then they get replaced, and they get replaced. So you're sort of refreshing everything. So young people keep coming in with new ideas to keep the thing running. And of course, that hasn't happened in 20 years. So now we're all in our late 40s, 50s, and whatever. And that's the reason why. It's not just with sci-fi clubs, it's with all social events, groups, effectively. And that's the issue. The replacement generation isn't there. And that's the reason why, like Russell was saying, trying to find people to run them is very hard now, because the younger generation just aren't interested. So it's not good.
For me, and I've discussed this with Dags, fandom, the history of fandom is like a bell curve, where it started because a group of people who enjoy the same thing start hanging out, having barbecues, going and doing stuff together, and they go, hold on, we'll form a fan club. So you kind of get this curve where it goes up and becomes more successful, and it hit the peak probably in the 90s and 2000s, and then it goes down the other way where there's less people into it and more people online, and people drift away till it gets to the point where now people are back to like having barbecues with people who like the same thing and talking about, weren't fan clubs great? It's kind of, we've been there in that prime time to see the rise and fall of fan clubs, you running them and being involved, and me from the merchandise room.
Well, that's exactly right. And another aspect of the club thing that was mentioned here, and I've just lost it, is what fanzines, right? So all the clubs produce newsletters. Back at a time when newsletters were considered important, it was the only way to keep connections with your membership. But of course, some clubs would produce fanzines as well, which was they could sell as an additional overhead, and they put a lot of time and effort into them. So they put stories and artwork and whatever. Austrek had Spock. You guys, the Doctor Who Club had
Sonic.
No, Sonic's the newsletter. It was the fanzine.
Super Voc.
Yeah, Super Volk, I think it was. And Data had for Asterix, the Sydney Star Trek Club, I think was not Data Extract, because that was the name of the newsletter. Can't think of what it was called. And that was a bit of a big deal as well. And of course, that's just a dead entity regarding the fandom days of old. So there's been a lot of changes over the decades. Not necessarily all of it has been good. On different shows that I've hosted, we've talked about how conventions have changed, how the fan community's changed, the whole online thing. There are some people who say, well, I stay at home and I connect into the fan community through like social media and this and that and whatever else. But to me, that's not a part of fandom. If you're going to be a part of fandom, you've got to physically go somewhere and actually be a part of it and put the effort in. You're sitting behind the keyboard just doesn't cut it anymore. And so, so I'm still physically active, going to events. So I know I'm a part of fandom, but a lot of people sort of just say, oh, no, just staying at home, jumping on the Facebook page for a club is more than enough, which is unfortunate, but that's the way it goes.
We're talking about fanzines. Here's a bombshell for the 11 people that are watching. When I was in the club committee of the Doctor Who Club of Victoria, the sonic screwdriver, we didn't pay for that at all. Because we had no money at all in the kitty, one of the other members in the presidency basically stayed at work after hours and ran the whole thing off for free. And he would say, oh, well, like we were called into a meeting today saying there was like 500 sheets of paper have gone missing and all the toner from the photocopy has gone. Like, can we find out what happened here? And this was covertly happening for a year to keep Sonic going because there was just no money to run it. So it really shows how, even in the popular times, some fan clubs were really close to the edge week to week on funding and membership and things like that.
Very true. Now, there's a whole range of comments I'm going to get through here. Russell has said he knows how to run a club at a Sympathy 2, and I know exactly where you're coming from, so I could do it in my sleep, but I'm not going to. So Andrew made a point about saying Spock was popular, but it was forced to stop, and it was. So the official Star Trek fan club stopped it because it was making money, which is technically a kind of a breach of copyright, but unfortunately, it never ever came back, and that's the way it goes. Because you could sad thing is you could have old style clubs if people make the time once every 2 months. Yeah, sustainability is the issue. It's all well and good to do it for today, but to do it for year after year after year isn't going to happen. And as you know, Greg has got his Whovian group out in Bendigo, which is still doing stuff every couple of months, which is really good to see, actually. So, yeah, well done. And this is true, right? So I was talking about the small club earlier on, like Red Squadron, which was the Battlestar fan club, only had like 30 members, right? But it lasted like 15 years, right? It just wouldn't die. It just kept going with the same people the whole way through. So, and yeah, it was really, really good. Very small, very insular, but it got the point across, and it did well for itself. But you were talking about, so I'm just going to cut you off and just get this last bit in. You were talking about newsletters and stuff, right? Well, one of the things that I instigated for the Star Walking thing is I was the one who got them away from paper into digital. Now, I don't know if I was the first one to do this for a sci-fi club, but back in 2010, I knew like paper had to go and digital was the thing. So I got onto the committee, and one of the first things I did is I changed the newsletter from being a paper copy to a digital copy. And this is an example of some of the stuff that I did. And I did that for a couple of reasons. One was to save paper. Two was the fact I could do it all color. Three, it was cheap because there was no paper printing involved, and I could do it faster. And of course, the key thing was that the membership price of the club dropped. So from what it actually dropped to when it was lower than when the club first launched back in 1988. So it actually price went down instead of up. No one ever got to do that. So I thought I'd just chuck my head in the ring for that one. Sorry, dude, cut you off.
Oh, I was just going to say, we're just about out of time. So anyone who wants to fire us some last minute questions or anything about collecting or fandom, do it now. Otherwise, I guess we will start wrapping it up. The one thing I have to ask you, what do you see the future of fandom?
Yeah, I don't know. As Russell mentioned earlier, if people can't come in, new people can't come in to run the clubs at some point, they're going to struggle, which is a shame because all the clubs are struggling, yet the franchises they're supporting are all thriving. Star Trek, Star Wars, and Doctor Who's just going gangbusters at the moment. But all the clubs are struggling, and the internet part and social media isn't helping at all. I'd like to think I'm being optimistic, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, I don't know. And as we saw with Aztrex, which was the Star Trek club in Sydney, when it closed down back in the late 90s when the official club took over, it never came back. Right? No. When the official club died, it's not like all these people got back together and said, no, let's revive Aztrex. It just went. And I don't think they've got a Star Trek club in Sydney now and haven't had it for 20 years. So I don't know. I want to think positive, but you've got to be realistic at the same time.
Yeah. The other thing I know we're out of time, but I wanted to ask you, when you were running Skywalking, did you have a good relationship with Lucasfilm, and would they contact you and things like that, or they pretty much left you alone?
No, we had good contacts with Lucasfilm. We would send them newsletters all the time. Our main contact was with Gaffney International, who are the licensees for Australia. And that worked out well. We actually got to do paid costume appearances for them. So a corporation would contact Gaffney to say, we want Star Wars characters for this particular event. They would contact us. We would actually go to their events and their Christmas parties and everything. It was pretty fantastic. But Lucasfilm acknowledges that we were there and we existed. And it was all pretty groovy, actually. And we got to meet Denise Wright. Oh, no, can't think of the lady's name. Louise Riley from Lucasfilm. We came out to inspect the costume. So it was all hunky-dory. So if the internet had existed back then, we probably would have had better communications. Back then, it was all frigging letters and memos and shit. But there you go. Very good. Okay. Yeah, so we don't know what happened to our Facebook viewers. Sorry about that, guys. Something happened midstream, and it's just not been good. We've lost a lot of people, including Jacqueline, who probably wanted to ask us a whole lot of questions. So,
yeah. There you go. And I think Russell's right. Fandom has actually never been bigger. It's just it's a different kind of fandom now, isn't it? It's not the fandom that we grew up with.
No, it is definitely different. So, but I still enjoy going along. I catch up with people. I got no problem with it. There's actually a fandom event next weekend, a Christmas party with a couple of the clubs, Austrek and Star Walk in there. I'll be there. So, don't miss these things, because I always work on the view that one day they will not be there anymore. So that's the reason why I don't want to miss out. So,
so will there be more people at the fan run event or more people at the Rip It Off the Card dinner?
I don't want to answer that question. In case think positive. That's what it comes down to. So there you go. Very, very good. All right. I think you're right. We may have to buzz off. It's a shame we didn't get to some of the other stuff that we wanted to cover off. But hopefully you've enjoyed our chat and got to rejoin us after our issue. So anyway, yes, we're into December as of tomorrow. So, be sure to look after yourselves and party hard and rock on. And we will speak to you very soon. Any final words before we go?
Yep, for anyone watching who has been involved with fandom, run events, or been involved in committees, good on you, because a lot of people don't get involved and rely on others. So anyone who has, congratulations on having that on your resume in the past, because you know what? I appreciate you.
Good stuff. No worries. All right, leave it to it, guys. Enjoy, party hard, rock on, and we'll see you later on. Bye.
Have a good night. See you.